This is Lady Anne, owner of KPNL Radio and hostess of the Caravan Library of Lore, and I support TESA. As an experiencer myself, I have filed my own reports with them, and the professionalism and heart they have shown my case goes above and beyond. If you have had an experience, I cannot recommend TESA enough.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, Winston Zedmore from Ghostbusters. I want to let you know that Ryan Stacey, he's created the Experiencer Support Association, TESA. You can check them out at www.tesacan.org. Now, they investigate paranormal, UFO, and provide support to experiencers. But you can check them out at, like I said, www.tesacan.org and see for yourself if they're really Ghostbusters. I can tell you this, they are a non-profit organization. Good luck, have fun, and keep it blessed.
Good evening. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. TESA is a UFO, paranormal, and paracryptid investigation association. We investigate everything belonging to the global phenomenon linked to highly strange and unexplained experiences. We also connect experiencers with other experiencers, creating a safe, positive environment to engage and discuss this phenomenon without judgment, criticism, or retribution. From the land of the white rolling sands, on the southeasterly tip of Georgian Bay, to all of you listening around the world, as we simulcast live on KPNL Radio, we salute you. If you want to go back and listen to our previous episodes, go to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be instantly notified when we are live, not only for these episodes, but every single element TESA has to offer. On our website, tesacan.org, we have something for everyone. We have support for experiencers, data for independent researchers, and places to advertise for professional partners. Hello, everybody. Today is November 4th, 2021, and I, Ryan Stacey, am your host this evening. I'm a licensed private investigator, a citizen journalist, and the director of investigations for the Experiencer Support Association. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. To super chat, click the $ next to your name in the comment box. All donations go back into the mission. If you're catching this on replay, please consider becoming a member and unlock bonus content, including behind the scenes and extended footage on new project developments and investigations. Just click the big blue button that says join. Our guest for tonight, season 3, episode number 35, is Dave Petrella. Dave Petrella is an astrologer, biologist, spiritual guide, and an Oak Island theorist. He has traveled to all 50 states and most of Canada doing research. Dave has studied world religions and spiritual traditions extensively, along with Eastern medicine, metaphysics, and topics related to extraterrestrial intelligence. Dave has been studying the TESA map. This is the map. And in this episode, we will explore his theories around what this map just might be. I will preface, Dave has had a little bit of an internet connection, but we're gonna make it through. So Dave, put on your tinfoil hat. We're about to go. Oh, and he disappears right on point. Where did you go, man? Where did you go? All right, well, let me bring my screen over here. So yeah, we've been having some difficulties with him connecting. That was like right on point when we were to bring him in. So hello, Serena. Hello, CC. Hello, Scarborough. Hello, Lisa. So I'm just going to talk to you guys while he pops in. He's been popping in and out since he started at 7:45. We haven't been able to get a solid connection with where he is. So let's just break out a Q&A if we can. Shriner Freemason symbols on the map. Okay, let's talk about the map. Let's do that. All right. So Shriner Freemason symbols on the map. Can you be a little bit more specific? Let me pull it up on the screen here. Let's see. I'll share my screen now, and hopefully he pops up. But if he doesn't pop up, then I guess we are just going to wing it and go from there. Sorry about that. We did try to troubleshoot it before he popped on, but unfortunately, where he's at, c'est la vie. So excuse me. Here we are. Moonlight, how you doing, man? Moonlight, good to see you, Kevin. Hey, Ryan Stacey, Serena, SSS, Lisa, and Annie. Oh, Scarborough Sasquatch Station, right on. Oh, he's back. Here he is. Hello, sir. Are you with us?
Yep. Can you hear me, Ryan?
I can hear you now.
Great.
You like popped out like right when I was like, "Welcome to the show," and you were like gone.
I know. Well, actually, I had several windows open and knocked me out of all of my internet windows at the same time. So I had to go back to get the link and everything. But anyway, I think we got it.
Okay, I think we got it. So welcome. Put on your tinfoil hat. We're going to go down a rabbit hole. So how are you doing? How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Oh, yeah. I'm great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm really excited to talk about the map. I've been, I've been studying essentially the preliminary to that for 10 years. I mean, probably more than that if you include everything, but I can't wait to kind of get into it.
All right. Well, we will get into that. First things first, I want to know, just tell us a little bit like how this connection happened. Like you were telling me before, I was on a show. Do you remember the show it was that you saw me on? And we talked about the map?
Yep. I believe it was The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. And I was, in the chat room, and I was participating in the show for the podcast, and I saw the map came up, and he said, that you weren't quite sure necessarily all of the aspects of it, but you said, well, you know what? I know someone knows what it is. Mm-hmm. And so immediately, I typed him like, I know what it is, Ryan. And
yeah, so we talked privately after that show, and I remember you saying that you knew what it was. And you've seen it before, and that kind of proved that point that I'm really excited without hearing any of these things too. Mm-hmm. Before we get into that, though, as excited as I am, as I'm wearing the shirt, I got the screen all prepped with the screenshots, and the audience is pumped because they really want to know what this is too. I want to know why you are the way that you are. Like, how did you get to this? But before we do that, first.
Hello?
No, hey, sorry, man. It's the energy. Maybe the energy is just so strong right now that nobody really wants us to talk about this map. But what I want to get into first is I'm going to do our icebreaker from Tim the Demon Guy Morrison. All right, so the icebreaker, for those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, Tim, the Demon Guy Morrison, gives me the first question of the night. I'm going to open it and share it with you all for the first time, and we'll either answer it together or one of us will answer it, and then we'll get into the show. So Timmy asks today, would you rather see a ghost of a stranger or a ghost of someone you love? That's a good question.
Well, you want me to answer first, Ryan, or?
Sure, go ahead.
Probably a stranger, because the way that I interpret what a ghost is it's something, a spirit that's still trying to figure out what they're doing. There's some confusion. I think they probably haven't crossed over yet. I've heard that they're earthbound, that ghosts are earthbound, which is not a pleasant necessarily thing if you're trying to get to the spirit world. So, that probably it'd make me really sad, I think, if it was someone I knew. So, But you know what? Honestly, like I try to represent the entire spirit world, so I'm there for you know, any spirit that's struggling, trying to figure something out. I really try not to discriminate. So be
Hey,
sad,
they
sad
could
either
be
way.
people too. They could be people too. So I like
Right.
that. That's tough for me. Like, I mean, I've been fortunate enough not to have many pass in my life at this present time. Knock on wood. So, but I mean, I can imagine. I can imagine that. So I would say on the account of being emotional, and on the account of as an investigator wanting to understand what's going on, I would prefer a stranger, but then at the same time a loved one, someone I know that's familiar, might really help too, might make it a little bit easier to understand what's going on. So that's my take on that. Thank you, Timmy, for that question, and hope wherever you are, you're not in the chat, so I hope you're watching. Maybe you're being a creep, not commenting. Say hello. You let us know that you're here. Okay, Dave, tell me why are you the way that you are? How did you get into astrology, biology, Oak Island theorist? I want to talk about Oak
Okay.
Island a little bit too, if we can.
Yeah, sure.
And then just real quick, and then we can get into the map from
Okay,
there.
well, I started with biology since 5th grade. I was reading pretty elaborate manuals and medical manuals even at that age. And of course, none of the teachers knew what the things were. I would ask a question. I said, studying anatomy or something, and really basic anatomy. Of course, they had no idea what the answer was. So I went back and I consulted the books I had, at my house, my library that I started to build up when I was young. And I took biology very seriously. I started college for biology, and so in terms of the tenets of Western, I call it Western biology, which is how it's taught in North America, or just even maybe I'll just say North America. Yeah, we'll keep it North America. But then I never had any real exposure to the Eastern medicine or the Eastern science of biology. I'll get to that in a second. But so I had the biology background, and then I wanted to kind of like branch out a little bit. So I took a course in college on Greek and Roman mythology, and that was still to this day one of the best courses I've ever taken, because it it wasn't just like a story anymore. It was starting to get into what are called entheogens, which it bridges the gap between the biology and the mythology. It's something basically that you ingest, if people are not aware of this, in order to get yourself into a state to commune with a divine presence or whatever. And so for the ancient world, that was the Amanita muscaria mushroom, which is that fairy tale mushroom that everyone probably is aware of from like the Russian mythologies and all this stuff. But anyway, that started to bridge the gap between the spiritual world and the biological world for me. And then let's see, in terms of the timeline, I started studying in 2012. I started studying the chakra system, which is people who do yoga be aware of the colors that go up the spine, the energy centers up the spine. I started that 2012. And then in 2015, I was looking for information again about biology, about some of the Eastern traditions of biology, and specifically the cerebrospinal cord fluid, which is the master fluid essentially in the body. It's the brain fluid that it gets diverted down the spinal column, and it has a lot of esoteric indications to it. And what I did was I found someone named Santos Bonacci. I don't know if anyone is familiar. I'm sure someone's familiar with him out there that's listening. He's a very, very, very good astrologer. He also does a lot with flat Earth, and in terms of getting people up to date on, like our rights as humans and things of that nature. So he does a lot of that stuff. So I found his video on cerebrospinal fluid, and then on the right column under the YouTube, the videos suggested for you, I saw astrology. So he had like a huge number of videos on astrology, a lot more than on the biology thing aspect. So I said, what I found in his first video was so good. Actually, the first video changed my life forever in terms of what I learned about what the East says about biology. And I said, all right, so he did a great job. So I'm going to give him a real chance. And I watched his astrology videos, and that was the first real exposure I'd ever had to it. And then I started doing birth charts, over the next few months, and I've been doing it ever since. So the more disciplines that you can accumulate, really, you know, in terms of how they were taught originally, to get as close to the original teaching. You know, if you have a strong biology background, strong chemistry background, strong astrology background, strong background in geography and geology, and just basically as many things as possible, and you take it seriously enough, you know, this is really what I believe. I mean, I'm a smart person, but I also really pay attention. And to me, that's number one. Pay attention. You know when you hear something that's helpful and important, and then you're going to be able to apply it. Even you don't have to be brilliant. You know, you can just follow. It's like following the road. It's all laid out for you. You just follow it. So I think that's the summary.
No, and it's interesting how you ended that way, because I remember how I was presenting the map to Michelle, and sorry, what was the other one's name?
Amelia,
pardon me. Sorry. It was Michelle was mostly talking, so that's why I remember that. Sorry. Yeah, because I was kind of saying, like, what is this? You know, this is meant for someone else, and someone must understand this. And then there you go. Like, I mean, apply it. I mean, like another thing too, I talked about this at my lunchtime video, is that I did prep some files that I have that I haven't really shared with the audience about the map either. So I just thought that would be a perfect time to share that, but I'm not going to share it until after you've talked, because I kind of want to be like, hey, it's coincidence that lines up to what I have. You know, I kind of want to do a little bit of a live investigation kind of type reveal thing, which I'm really excited for. So to give you guys a background, this map. So for those of you who may be new to listening and doesn't know what this is TESA. This is how TESA was given to me in forms of what I'm identifying as either in a dream state or a psychogenic download. However it happened, this message was given to me by myself or something else, and essentially I had to draw it on a piece of, until and I wasn't able to stop drawing it until I was done. I don't remember starting. No, I remember starting and I remember finishing, but I don't remember everything in between. So and there was also no decision on whether this color should be that color or this should be placed and oriented. It was just start to finish and then done. And then ever since, I've been trying to understand what it may be by things I do know and that I remember or I recognize in this symbol. So before I share that stuff, some stuff I've shared before, but I'm going to get into detail too. But with Dave, I'm excited to see where this goes. So do you want me to start with the slides, or like how? Because you gave me some stuff to share, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Ryan. The slides that I sent over are it's kind of like well, I'm going to have to just explain briefly kind of the baseline of astrology, because that's where I'm coming from. And it's not going to be too long form, because I'd rather talk about the specifics of the design, but I want people to see, and it's important that people see the baseline of, well, for instance, the first thing is it's really the circle. And, any time you see a circle, you should be thinking, and it has something to do with, some esoteric knowledge or something. You should be thinking about astrology, because this is how astrology actually works. And astrology is how, between astrology and astronomy, and the difference is, I should probably define that too. The difference is that astrology, it ascribes meaning to the positionings of the planets and the stars in the sky. Whereas astronomy will agree with astrologers and they'll say, yeah, this is where it is at this date. Venus is up here at this degree in the sky, but that's it. They don't say anything else with it. They just say, okay, we observed it and that's it. And so astrology does that. Plus it gives meaning. So, in any case, there's really two things. The first thing is the circle. So we'll just go into the basics of astrology here first, and then we'll pick up with the design.
Okay. Do I have the right slide up, or you want a different one?
No,
That's the right one. Okay.
That's the right one. Yep. Okay. So what this is showing, and obviously you guys will notice it's a circle, which is the first thing that you're going to see. Okay. So this diagram is showing the equinoxes and the solstices, which again it's actually basic. Again, it's also astronomy, but astrology takes up a step. And so over on the left side, you can see it. Hopefully people can read that. But over on the very far left, it says spring equinox. And the zodiac always starts at the spring date, which is around March 20th. And the sign that's associated with that is Aries. It's always Aries. And so what happens is the spring equinox, you have equal night and equal day. Equinox means equinox means equal night. Nox means night. So it means equal night and equal day. It's a balance, a real balance of the energy for the year. And then that whole top left quadrant is called the spring. And so what's happening in the spring is you get, well, we'll see it in the next diagram. I'll just say it though. You get Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. Those are the three signs of the spring. The sun is increasing in power every day. And in fact, that quadrant is the most powerful quadrant because the sun is not only is the sun getting stronger, but you're also getting more and more daylight every day. And so those are very positive signs. People who are born under those three signs is, in my opinion, it's a real gift. It makes things a lot easier, actually, in a lot of ways. And then until you get to the summer solstice, which is at the very top, which is June 21st, thereabouts. And that's the longest day of the year. The sun is the highest in the sky. And from that day, you start to now lose sunlight every day. And in fact, the entire summer season, which is the top right quadrant, is it's still hot. It's actually still very hot. The hottest time is generally in Leo, which is mostly August, a little bit at the end of July, and then most of August. But the difference is that the sun is not as strong as it is in Leo as it is at the very top in the summer solstice. So if you go outside around, I'm talking about the northern north of the equator. It's really going to be reverse for people who live south of the equator, for anyone listening. But what happens is if you go outside on June 21st, the sun is going to feel so strong, even if it's like 70 or 75 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm in the United States, so I use Fahrenheit. I'm not sure if hopefully people know what 75 would be for Celsius. But it's not that hot, but it's warm. And if you go outside in the middle of August, it's the air temperature is going to be very hot, but the sun's rays on your skin are not nearly as intense as they are on June 21st. So it's a really interesting, you get a little bit of like back and forth depending on what season you're in. You get some of the left side, some of the right side. It's not all just hot, like blazing rays. It's like the hottest time is also when the sun is dying. And the time when the sun is not dying, it's getting stronger, is not the hottest time. So there's a little bit of, it's actually part of in the TESA diagram too, the yin and yang symbol. Well, obviously we'll get to that. But that is really, there's supposed to be, like a little black dot within the white section. There's supposed to be a tiny white dot in the black section. It's always they're kind of contained within each other.
Do you think it might still be there just with the part that's shown and just might be covering it?
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point, Ryan. I mean,
it does appear that it would still be there.
Yeah. Yep, that's where it's supposed to be.
I do have a question because it's interesting how you mentioned that the spring is where it all starts. So normally we start our month we start our calendar in January. Right. So is that incorrect? Like, should we be counting day one from spring?
Well, I'll actually get to that in a second.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking that is because I'm trying to been trying to interpret the orientation. So TESA obviously comes from at the top here. My assumption TESA starting at the top, but if this is the orientation, should the message be ATES?
Well, it's interesting because so the T was definitely at the top, obviously, when you drew it down, right?
Yeah.
That's not, so you didn't take any liberty at all. That was up there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, the T, the summer solstice, that's the shining time of the sun. I mean, that's like the sun is so happy. It's at full power. So actually, no, I actually agree with that. There's nothing inconsistent about that.
That's so strange. Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing inconsistent. You probably have something else you're thinking, right?
Well, no, I don't know, right? Like, but it makes sense. Like what you're like. I mean, I'm the student
Right.
tonight. I'm learning from you right now, man. So like, let's
Right.
keep going.
Yep. Well, the sun loves to be at the summer solstice, so that's a good place to start with the T. Okay, so you're going through the summer top right quadrant, and then you get to the fall equinox, which is at the far right. And again, it's equal night and equal day. The difference being that the sun is still decreasing in power all the way from the summer solstice. The entire right half of this circle, the sun is dying. It's what's called dying in mythology. The entire left half, it's the birth portion.
And that's so strange because the yin and yang seems to be positioned properly.
Oh, yeah, and it's actually and it's actually a lot more genius than that too, because I saw that at first, but there's a whole nother level going on with this.
Well, I will say that if it was me, like my higher consciousness, I was pretty impressed with my smart self. But even though I don't remember, I can't take credit for it.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if obviously in that moment when you were dialed into a really high energy level or gradient, it greatly enhances, of course, your own abilities. Even if it was partly coming from you, partly coming from a divine source or whatever the combination.
So sorry Scarborough asked me a question that might be relevant. He asked me what month is your birth. So I'm June. So my zodiac sign is Gemini. So I don't know if that's relevant, but
well, Gemini. I mean, if you're close to the end of Gemini, that's the summer solstice, right when it transitions over into Cancer. Okay. So June 21st. Closer you are to that day, the closer you are to the summer solstice. But Gemini starts roughly around May 21st.
Okay.
Okay, so you get the fall equinox, so you get the equal night and day again. It's a time of balance. And then now we're in the fall section, which is, of course, where we are right now in the year. And this is when it gets cold. So September 21st, roughly, or 22nd or 23rd, actually is probably better to say that, for the fall equinox. And then as you continue down the wheel, now you're ending up in the real death of the sun. The top part just above that, the summer, that's the death of the sun, but it's still warm. Now you're in the difficult time, which is the sun is still dying and it's getting cold. And actually that's why you're having, Halloween in this quadrant. It's in some ways you can think of it as like the least energy. Halloween is roughly right in the middle of fall. It's like about a week off from that. The direct middle of fall is about November 7th, so it's only a few days away. So that's why that was celebrated then, because the curtain or the veil and the energy gradient is very low. It's very low and it's very isolated from both the equinox and the solstice by being right in the middle. Okay, and then at the very bottom is the winter solstice, which is December 21st, roughly. And what happens then is that is traditionally called the birth of the sun.
So interesting enough, I got this message somewhere between December 26th and December 29th. December 29th is when I published this for the first time. So I've been holding on to that date as Tessa's birthday. Okay. But I got the vision or the message a day or two, like I can't remember the exact date, just after Christmas, but before that. So what does that mean?
That's phenomenal, Ryan. Well, it means a lot because you guys can probably see, if you can see up close, I wrote birth of the sun December 25th. Now, the solstice is about 3 1/3, 3.333, which is part of where 33 comes from, days before Christmas. So what happens is that you're not actually, the sun basically is what's called, it stands still. It doesn't lose light, it doesn't gain light at the solstice for 3.33 days. And then at the end of that period, that's when you have December 25th. That's why, and then that's when you start to actually have the birth. That's when the sunlight actually starts to increase. And that's why we celebrate Christmas on December 25th. And if you're going to Christianity, I don't want to talk about this a while. It is religion, it's important, but the sun it's Jesus the sun, but it's also the sun in the sky, and that's why they're the same word.
Yeah.
I believe both happened. Not everyone believes that. I believe he was a real person, but I also, of course, since I'm an astrologer, I obviously understand it this way.
Yeah,
So,
in my Masonic teachings, Jesus was a man. He may have, he may have been a Mason himself, but yeah, I agree with you there.
right. Okay, so then the 26th would be, like the first or the second full day of the birth. So that's like the power day, Ryan. That's when you celebrate because you're getting more and more light every day, starting on the 25th or 26th. That's very, very important. And in terms of the 29th, I would be able to see if I looked at your birth chart for you personally why that day might be really important. I can't see it now.
Well, see, so the December 29th is the only date that I can go back to because that's the date I made this image public. Okay. So, but I do know that it was after Christmas because we were down out in the open area where there's no no pollution of lights or electronics or anything like that. So my mind was completely open. So I mean, it could have been Christmas Day, like it could have been Christmas morning or Christmas Eve, like who knows? Could have been.
Well, it's either way, it's close enough that it's extremely significant because that's the day where the sun starts to gain and more light every day. It's not the 21st. That's what people have to understand. That it's the 25th. Mm-hmm. The 21st is when you stop losing light, but then there's the 3.33 days in between where nothing happens. It just kind of sits in the sky. Okay, so then as you're going up, you're in the birth of the sun now, but you're still in, it's still pretty dark because there's more darkness than light until you get again to the spring equinox. And actually the better term for that, Ryan, is the rebirth. So you have the birth on the winter solstice and then you have the rebirth on the spring equinox. Okay. And they're both very relevant. I wrote, the concepts of the resurrection, the Easter, Passover, they all come from the spring equinox, that idea of the spring equinox. And Passover means you're passing over the center line that goes horizontal of the zodiac, which is the equator. It's actually the equator, passing over the equator, the sun. So the calendar it's very interesting if you pay attention to some of the finer points with astrology, is that the calendar used to start in March. And I don't have a particular day for this. I haven't studied it that much, but I know it did because in March, that's the spring equinox, March 20, 21, 19, somewhere right around there. So the reason I know that is because by the time you get to September is indicating 7. That's the 7th month. It was originally the 7th month. And it got changed. You actually see the vestiges. You see July, which is from Julius. You see August, which is from Augustus. So you obviously know the Romans had a hand in this. But September is 7.
It's not the normal calendar. The calendar we use today is not the right date.
Right. Yeah. But thankfully, it hasn't been completely destroyed. And I know that because when I do birth charts, they're accurate. So I'm just so thankful that we still know what we're doing.
So what is the first month then? What is actually the first month?
Well, I mean, you can either call it March.
Yeah.
Or you can call it. I'd actually make it more specific. I would either say the first day of the year should be March 20th, or it should be December 21st. So it depends on if you're talking about the birth or the rebirth. And the reason the rebirth is great is because now you're getting more light every day, and it's warm, and everything starts to grow. At the end of March, and depending where you live, and into April and everything. So anyway, that's a general pattern of the zodiac. It is the zodiac, but this actually, of course, was also used for farming back in the day. And even people who don't, maybe they don't have an interest in astrology, you have to know these dates because you have to get your seed in the ground. You have to make sure you have enough time for it to grow and produce something that you can eat, and then you have to get it out of the ground before you freeze. So it's very important to know this, even if you're not doing astrology, because it's life or death. When you didn't have a supermarket, you got to.
Well, yeah, our ancients. Where did our ancients learn that, though? You're probably going to get into that too, right?
Well, I mean, that came from above for sure. Which I would just I'd just come out and say it's from extraterrestrial visitors. When I say extraterrestrial, it doesn't have to be. It can be humanoid, but it doesn't have to be. So one of the visitors might be like an ascended human, I would still call it an extraterrestrial. Maybe, for instance, like some of the Nordic races that people have seen. In terms of extraterrestrials, or they can be things like Greys or reptilians or Arcturians, or just so many options. But in any case, we can go to the next slide, I guess, if you're okay with that, Ryan.
Yeah, no worries. You just tell me. I'm
okay.
I got them all prepared, yeah.
Okay, so good. So that's turned the proper way, right?
Is that the right one? Yeah. I saw that. I fixed it for you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, so this is the same circle, but now it's starting to take form. And it's actually starting to, you guys should be able to see some more of a similarity now to the symbol on the right, to the TESA symbol. Because the first thing you should notice is it's broken up into 12 segments. And those, of course, are the 12 signs of the zodiac. And you have those, it's the diagrams, it's done a little differently, obviously, but it's the same thing. I guarantee that's the same thing. But I'll get into more of that later. In any case, when you look at the zodiac, you guys can see I drew in I wrote down the names of the different signs. There's 12 signs, of course. And I also wrote on the outside of the wheel the different planets, because each planet rules a specific sign of the zodiac.
Yeah. And
then there's also an element, and actually this is important, extremely important, Ryan, for tonight, because you have the elements on the wheel too, on the TESA logo. They each have an element that's associated with each of the signs. So, for instance,
are they the right elements at the right place?
Well, that's the part of the problem. But it's not a problem, and I'll explain why. Because
I was just like, I'm getting goosebumps, man, because I don't remember any of this stuff. Like, this is like, how?
No, this is the fabric of our solar system.
Okay.
I'm careful how I say it. It's not the universe. It's this solar system. Okay. So this is the form. This is the grid work behind everything. This is the invisible grid work behind everything that we can see. This is what makes everything operate. So anyway, we'll get to where the signs are positioned, because how it's positioned on the logo I'm completely fine with that. It's just it's slightly different, and you have to think about it a little differently. So anyway,
I could move it. It can be moved. We'll get into that afterwards.
Okay, sounds good. So anyway, each quadrant, of the year, which you got the spring and the summer, then the fall, and then the winter, they all have 3 types of signs. It's either called the cardinal sign, which is the sign that kicks off the season is the cardinal sign. And then the middle sign for each season is called the fixed sign in astrology. And then the last one is called the mutable sign.
Okay.
And those 3 repeat depending on, every quadrant or every season, you have the same repetition in the same order until you get it back to the beginning. So, we don't have to spend a huge amount more time on this now. I just want people to see mostly the division into 12. Obviously, how it perfectly matches the division on the logo, and the fact that each sign is associated with an element, which is, of course, going to come into play too as we continue.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go on to the, it says human body chakra system, that slide. I hope everyone's getting excited about this because,
Well, yeah, everyone's quiet. They're paying attention. They're listening. Okay. I'm excited. For those of you who listen to this or listening to the podcast version of this, you guys need to get on YouTube. You're missing all of this visual stuff right now. Holy. All right.
Okay, so now this slide, now it's going to start to get, each slide we go into it gets more and more interesting. This slide is going to start to define why, because I remember you mentioned, Ryan, I just want to make sure I'm correct about this, but that this symbol is sitting on the top of the pyramid, correct?
Well, I don't know if that's correct. That is one of my interpretations, and in my section, I'll explain to you how I interpreted it, because now that I'm seeing how you've done it, some of that stuff clicks and makes sense. So then I will explain to you how I interpreted this, and then maybe we can go on for another hour at the end and keep this going and talk about what it really is. Because
yeah, absolutely, yep. Okay, so this
might be a two-parter.
Yeah, sure, for sure. Okay, so this table is actually showing everyone how there's a direct correlation between let me start over at the. No, I'll start over at the left. Okay, so if people are familiar with yoga, and the chakras that go up the spine, they have the 7 different colors, starting at red and going all the way up to purple. Those are called the 7 chakras, right along the spine. And then there's actually another 3 chakras above the head that you can't see. Now, some people think there's a total of 12. Some people think there's a total of 14. So, I mean, it goes on and on. And I've studied this for a very long time. And in my opinion, you find the best proof in the ancient world. So if you're starting to look at some of their diagrams and how they explain things, and one of the last slides we'll get to is I won't spoil it, but anyway, some of their structures, and you can see, and you should start to be thinking, it's like, well, why did they make this structure to feature a specific number? Maybe there's a reason for that, that's a good investigator. We'll ask those questions. So anyway, I have on the very left, I have the 10 chakras. The bottom, the first 7 are the ones that you can see. Those make up your body, and then the top 3 are above your head. And each of them has a color associated with them, like I wrote in that second column, and I already went over the colors. Each of them has a metal. This might be interesting too, Ryan. I don't know if you've had any indication of metal elements or anything of that nature, but each of the chakras has
like
a metal.
Like indication where would this metal be located? Would you context? Any context?
I mean, it might somehow fit into the diagram when we go into it. I don't know yet because we'll have to have the conversation. But,
okay. All right.
It starts at silver. Silver is at the bottom. It goes all the way up to lead. Lead is at the top. It's the 7th. And then the last column are the 7 traditional planets, which it starts at the moon, goes all the way up to Saturn. And if you look across that table, they all correlate to each other. So when you're talking about 1, you're talking about red, silver, and the moon. And then 2, orange, Mercury, and Mercury. And that goes all the way across. And this comes from the ancient world. I'm not making this up. This is the original, some of the very, very first teachings on this.
No, I know. And all this stuff makes sense to me. I've heard all this stuff many different ways and many different times. But what's interesting to me is that you're lining it up quite well in a way. My mind's just exploding because I'm like, why didn't I think of that? And then as soon as you put that idea, I'm like, it's all starting to make sense. So it's like, so keep going.
Yeah, I agree, Ryan. I wonder why sometimes I wasn't given this information until like the second part of my life. I would have been great if I had it when I was 18. I could have done so much more right off the bat.
I don't know why I was given it. I don't, it's just, I have it. This is the point. This proves the point. It wasn't meant for me. It was meant for you, maybe, and then for someone else. So it makes sense to you. I'm the guy who birthed it.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. And that's why I couldn't type fast enough when I saw the logo come up, because I'm like, wait a minute. First thing I saw were the 12 on the outside. Of course, that keyed into that.
I just want to. Sorry, I got to interrupt you for a second. My wife piped in here. She said, "I'm feeling like during my meditations, Reiki sessions, he is downloading this and expressing it in his unique way," and that is kind of interesting too that you would say that, still, because I do feel when you're doing your sessions, and that's when I'm in my creative element. And it was one of those. You're probably doing Reiki at Christmas time too. I'm willing to bet that somehow, I don't know, yin and yang. Anyways, she's my support. She's the one who encourages me on the spiritual side. So.
Oh, great, Ryan. Well, I was thinking that, if you're in close proximity to someone who is putting out large amounts of energy, then you're going to be affected by it.
She heals herself regularly, and she heals others, and I feel it. I know, good and bad. Yep. For context, she's an Aries. I'm a Gemini, so read into that.
That's actually pretty good. There's nothing right off the bat that I would say, oh, that might, be challenging or anything. They're only, depending on where you are. I mean, it's up to, I guess it would be up to 90 degrees apart, but we can go into that some other time with the astrology part of it.
Okay. No worries.
Okay. So, All right, so now we'll go to the top of that chart, and this is when it gets. This is okay. Let me put it this way. Are you still there, Ryan? Hello?
I'm still here. I don't know what happened, but you got this. You
Okay.
don't need me. The show is yours.
Okay, so the logo is going to start to take shape when I start explaining what's above that 7th level. So on the 8th level, and if people remember, I was talking about the 8th chakra is the one directly above the head, and that is equivalent to the mind of the human being. That's where the mind exists. It's technically above the head, and then thoughts actually end up coming in, and they physically manifest in the 12 cranial nerves of the brain. That's how the 12 zodiac signs get into your body. It has to go through the top of the head, and then it goes into the cranial nerves, and then it distributes it from there. Okay, so the 8th level also contains the entire zodiac, and what it's called in the ancient world is called the fixed stars. So the planets, they're called the wanderers. The planets move independently of each other across the sky, and it can be somewhat hard to predict their orbits. It would take quite a while to figure that out. But the stars, they move as a unit. So around the pole star, depending on which pole star it is, depending on where you are in history. And so they're not moving independently, and you can always count on the constellation being there in the same relationship with the constellation next to it, et cetera, because they're not moving. They're just moving as it moves as a big disk, which is why it's a disk, of course. So that's where the 12 comes in. And then the ninth level is called the dream world. And I should mention the 8th level is ruled by Uranus. The planet Uranus rules the stars. The 9th level is ruled by Neptune. Neptune rules the dream world. And well, I'll go into this in a second because it'll be more exciting when we actually looking at the logo directly. So that's number 9. And then number 10 is what I would call freedom. And that's freedom from the solar system, which means now you can access the rest of the universe, depending on, given the laws of different systems, you can move freely. Okay, so that's that general chart. We can go to the next one if you're ready. If you're okay with that, Ryan.
Yeah. I'm just currently decompartmentalizing my life right now and trying to make sense of
oh man,
I can't even I am the way that I am.
Yep.
This is revealing. I'm uncomfortable, but I like it. Keep going.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so this slide is showing actually the proper model of the solar system. And again, this goes into deep antiquity, even when it's not expressly stated. Like this particular diagram, I would say probably came out of Egypt, Europe, Egypt, Mesopotamia, somewhere around there. We'll obviously get back to Mesopotamia because it's extremely important. Anyway, so the original model was based on the flat Earth model. I'm sure people are aware of that. And the Earth was said to be a flat plane. And in fact, the word planet comes from plane. Plane, of course, meaning flat. So, that's
so
something
for context,
to think about.
Are you pro or con flat Earth?
Well, you know what? I'm actually, I would say I'm undecided. And I've researched it as much as possible, pretty much. I've spent days and days and days and days. I've seen proofs on both sides. One of the things I suggested to my friend recently, which is interesting, I said, well, how about splitting the difference? And how about saying, maybe it's possible for some people to say, oh, no, the sun's at the center and the earth, rotates around the sun. Well, what if I said the earth is in the center, but it's a globe? Mm-hmm. That tosses things up a little bit, because if I say the earth's in the center and it's flat, that's one option. The other option is the earth's in the center and it's a globe. The other option is the sun's in the center. And you know what? Actually, they all might be true, because you're talking about quantum levels and stuff like this.
It's interesting too, because the yin yang it was also another interpretation of how the sun and the moon would play with each other on the flat Earth model.
That's true. That's great, Ryan. You're right about that. They do a dance around each other, you know, the sun and the moon. And the sun, the cycles of the moon, well, that's where we get month from, is from moon. Approximated at 28 days. It, you know, varies slightly, but that's roughly the length of the month. In fact, there's some models that actually talk about how the year should have 13 months instead of 12 months, because it's not based on like a 30-day month. It's based on like a 27 or 28-day month.
Well, if you go back to Sumerian, you look at their mathematical system, the base 60, right? We still use that today for time. That's the only time we use it. Everything else is base 10. You know, so like I'm totally with you on that, and I do share the whole undecided kind of. I agree on both sides of the fence. And I will remain that way until I go into space and see for myself.
Oh, man.
You know,
Ryan,
so,
I agree 100%. I want to see it, you know, I want to see it with my own eyes. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyway, this is based on the flat Earth model, though, where the Earth is a plane at the center of the solar system. So this is going to make a lot of sense if people really think about it, honestly. I drew concentric circles because it's actually technically, I would call the Earth I would call the solar system a very big bubble with like 10 other bubbles nested inside of it, or a total of 10. Let me just say a total of 10 bubbles. And at the center of that bubble is Earth. This is the original model. Okay. So then what happens is when you go above that, you have what are called the 10 spheres, and the sphere indicates a vaulted sky, which is the top half of that bubble. Now the bubble, I 100% believe the bubble continues beneath the ground. We just can't see it, and it's in a different matter gradient so that it becomes solid. But it's the same. It's actually a sphere. It's not just like not just a dome. It's the dome with.
So the energy is creating the shape. You mean? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the energy of that sphere is projecting it as a full sphere, not as a dome. Because the dome would just be half of it. You can see the line I drew. The other half goes beneath the Earth, is what I'm saying.
And that would make sense why visibly we can see that dome shape while we're here. But yet the same people that's the thing with the flat Earth thing. It's just the people arguing it. Nobody's been to space. So the ones that do argue it do go to space. But then there's that whole cover up in NASA crap that, you know, so it's like it's hard, you know. You got to find someone who believes in the flat Earth and then goes up to space and then
and you know the dome, like you're just saying, Ryan, the dome might be not part of the Earth but part of the first sphere. And actually that's what some people claim, is that we actually can't get to the moon because it's a luminous body. It's a spiritual luminous body. It's not like the same type of dense matter as the Earth. It's not something you can land on because it's like kind of like a hologram-ish. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's one of the things that people
and some
think.
say we can only land on it because it's within the dome. It's inside the dome, not outside of it.
Well, and you know what? That might be also true because the moon, it rules the first sphere. So you're going to expect to see the moon within that first sphere. And then to get out of that first sphere, I personally don't think so. I don't think that...
So the other part I totally have to mention, and I keep forgetting that. So we do have some experiencers that do astral travel and do have testimony on being on extraterrestrial crafts. And so Lisa says that she can vouch that the Earth is round and beautiful and fragile from one of her experiences. So that is, you know, that's true and untrue, you know, all at the same time. It's so.
I love that, though. I love the firsthand testimony because I haven't seen that myself, so I appreciate that.
But you still accept the possibility of, like, that's the thing. I was like, I know it's round. I feel like it's round. It makes sense to be round, but then I'm like, it also makes sense that it's not.
yeah, exactly.
You know.
Well, in most here's the thing that's interesting is that most concepts on Earth are dualistic, and it was created that way. And actually, we'll get into that with the logo as well. But it was created to have, it's really weird, man. I mean, it's created to have two contradictory concepts be true at the same time. And that makes
duality. Duality, equality, objective, you know.
Well, then it makes it difficult when you're trying to pinpoint one side, because then if both seem like they're correct, how are you supposed to figure out which one it is, you know? It's a very strange thing. Okay, so anyway, so the 10 spheres, like I was saying, they're complete spheres. It's the best way to think about it is like Russian nesting dolls. They sit inside of each other like that, and it's like a 3D object, and it's a full, it has the top and bottom and everything like that. So that's what you're seeing with this model. This is the ancient model, and actually I'll prove it to you at the next slide as well. But when you go over to the right, you see I drew it so it made a little bit. I drew it in a little bit different way so that you can see that above Earth, let's say Earth is in the center, the flat plane, you have what are called the 10 heavens. And this goes into a lot of, Dante's Inferno story. People are probably looking at this and saying, it is because that's what it's based off of. Okay, so you have the 10 spheres above the Earth, which are the heavens. And at the higher you go up, the density decreases. That's why you have the outer planets, gas giants and stuff like this, and then they get more and more less dense basically as you go out. Neptune and Uranus and these beautiful blue orbs out there floating there, that seems like they're barely there. They're like really mystical. That's because the density has gone way down. And then when you go beneath the Earth, you have the 10 hells. And the 10 hells are supposed to be 10 flat planes, much like the Earth, except the further down you go, the higher the density gets. And the very bottom is what you would call the Earth star, I believe people refer to it as, which is the center of the Earth, which is the dynamo, the molten core, however you want to talk about it. It might also be a sun. It might actually be a real sun inside the Earth, which fits with the hollow Earth model and all this stuff. And then the very top of that 10th level would be your soul star, which is, that's the highest. That's where you find your divinity.
So could this also like tie into the simulation theory, where this we're in a simulation?
What do you mean by that, Ryan? Assimilation?
Yeah, what we see in the physical world and what we understand with the metaphysical world and the consciousness and everything all connecting. This data that we're receiving is being implanted, and the reality in which actually exists, we're unable to see it because this is a simulation. Like there's someone, like this is the true Earth, this is the way it was, and then all of a sudden they decided to put us into this, virtual reality, which we're now progressing towards again in this material world.
Yeah, I agree with that. And actually, probably the best way to think about it, I think about it in terms of, I guess I think about it in terms of 21 dimensions. Generally, that's how I do it, which would be the 10 heavens, the 10 hells plus Earth. So they're all kind of holographic. The only one that's not holographic is the 10th level. That's where everything is actually the true form, the divine, true, perfected form. And then it's kind of like shining the light on that 10th level. If you say you got your divine, your perfected form of yourself sitting at that 10th level, and you shine a light behind you, then that light's going to get split into like 20 dimensions, into 20 different density levels, and you have, you technically exist in all of them. It's absolutely fascinating. But no, you're right. And I actually believe in alternate timelines, alternate dimensions, copies of this dimension, infinite copies of the Earth dimension. I mean, really anything is possible. Especially the more you start dealing with these concepts, you can see that there's a lot of stuff going on. Okay, I think there's
so we're just going to pause right now because we got to get to commercial.
Oh, okay.
So no, it's okay. I was just getting prepped up for it. So we'll pause right here, but we will continue after a message from our professional partners. Also, if you're listening to this live on KPNL Radio or a future podcast, head over to youtube.com/the Experiencers Support Association to see the video that goes with this audio. You are truly missing out on visuals today. Holy. Remember, you are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencers Support Association. We will be right back.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. People that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up, they're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that we're alone in the universe.
My mission is to assist and help those experiencing this phenomenon in such a way that they're able to continue and live with it, and also in a way that it can be measured, quantified, and reinforced within today's society, so that way it can be accepted and no longer viewed in a negative way. One thing that I do value in people is the ability to sense and feel when something is right and when something is wrong. That is a natural ability that we all share. Now, when we combine that with the paranormal and ufological abductions or visits, I have this sensation that these abilities are connected. Not everyone can sense, not everyone can feel. However, those who can are typically connected with something that we cannot explain. And part of my research is not just to investigate the experience, but it's also to understand and study the experiencer to find out what they have in common with other experiencers, to try to figure out what the actual makeup is in order to be on that spectrum. There's a lot of it happening all over the world, and I do not know of any other study that is focusing on the individuals as people, only the phenomenon. Welcome back. You are still listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. If you're enjoying this episode so far, please consider becoming a member of our channel or send us a super chat. Your membership will get you bonus content like exclusive videos, and it will help us reach our goal of launching our training center, Interstellar, the Academy of Ufology and Paranormal Studies. Hey, Callie, can you go away, Callie. Also, if you've ever experienced an unexplained event involving the paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrials, dogman, or any other paracryptid, head over to tesacan.org/reporting system. The more reports we get, the more we will understand this phenomenon and how it affects our people. Let the others who already have reported be that example that proves we are making a difference. And if it wasn't for these reports, we would not be able to do what we do. And for that, we thank you. I am still here with this crazy, brilliant, mad scientist, Dave Petrella, who's frozen. Are you frozen right now? Are you frozen?
No, I'm here.
Are you still here? I'm trying to bring the screen over. I can never time this right. There we go. Now I can look at you. And all right, let's. Where did we leave off? Did you need a new slide or what?
Yeah, we've got after that slide, I was just basically describing to people, the traditional ancient model of the solar system, which features 10 nested spheres inside of each other, and they all correlate, to the chakra system colors.
Gotta deal with this cat.
Okay, great.
Okay, well, hold on one sec. So, just talk about something. Say hello. Hold on, I'm gonna get rid of this cat.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm just gonna start to talk about this slide, guys, because basically what you're looking at is the pyramid from the Yucatan Peninsula. This is the Mayan El Castillo pyramid, and the reason I'm showing it to you is because it's going to indicate a world system, which is what you would expect, with astrology, because astrology encompasses the entire planet. It's not just one part of the world. The model that I was just describing, it got, I suppose you could say it was put into maybe writing or a form that people could read and learn about in that way. And that was, of course, over on the eastern side of the world, around Egypt and Mesopotamia and Europe. However, this is the same thing, and it's on the other side of the world. And the real genius way to do it, if you're an ancient culture, is that you actually put all of the information inside of a structure, preferably something that's made of stone, because it's not going to decompose in 10 years or whatever, or 50 years. So they encoded this entire system within this pyramid. And like I'm saying, this is the Yucatan Peninsula. This is literally halfway around the world from where the focus is for Western astrology, which is what I do, which is Egypt. Now, this pyramid, the first thing to notice is, of course, there's 4 sides. It's one for each direction. Yes, they're all lined up to the cardinal points of the compass. There are 91 staircases per side. And that, of course, if you add that, it's 364 plus the top step, which is 365. So the first thing to know is that they put the length of the year in this. Now, where it gets more interesting for me, this is something I started doing a long time ago when I started to kind of research into a little bit of numerology in terms of why are certain numbers so important? Why do they repeat across the world? What does it mean? And you'll notice that there are 10 platforms on this pyramid. And that matches the ancient model of the solar system, because all of the cultures, in some shape or form and at some point in history, they all knew it. And, to segue a little bit into the extraterrestrial topic, I believe that we had visitors from different parts, not just the solar system, but I would say solar system and the rest of the universe, coming to different places on the planet. I actually, and I'm really excited to talk about this probably a little bit towards the end, because there's still a few more things I got to put into place for it to make sense. But I actually think that it was probably originally the Watchers that distributed the knowledge across the planet. And I think that they were each assigned specific geographical areas. And that's why I think all of these people say, yeah, our God came from here and they look like this. And the people say, we've always been here. This is our land. This is where we originated from. So what I'm kind of envisioning is probably the Watchers, and not just them, but probably other groups. I think they seeded humanity in the different parts of the world and probably independently taught them things like, astronomy and astrology. They taught them and they told them how to build your pyramid to make it an accurate model of the solar system. They taught them about how long the year was and all these things, some about medicine. But anyway, the bottom line point is that this is the same model that I just showed you guys. And, I didn't make this. At least I don't think I did, unless I was there back when it was created. But go ahead, Ryan. Yep.
The interesting thing is, and I wish I could change the orientation. I'm trying to see if I can change it, but I never in my life ever looked at the aerial view of this pyramid. And by you linking it in, have you seen an aerial view of this pyramid?
Yep.
By you linking it in, it just made me look and wonder, what the hell does it look like? And look at this. I've never seen the area view of this. If I were to just change the orientation a little bit, like it looks like that.
That's what it is. Yep.
That is fucked. I'll use my F-bomb right there. What?
Yep.
Wow.
Okay, so you're right, and you already keyed into it, Ryan. This is your logo is an aerial view from the top of the solar system.
And I assumed it was a pair. Okay. When we get into my part, this part's gonna mix. This is
crazy, right?
I'm crazy. Yeah, I agree.
No, I mean it's time to get this knowledge out and to start to put things together. And I see a positive, bright future for humanity, but we need to start paying attention a little bit better.
So what does this mean then? So this is what it is. This is a message to me to put this out. We're connected. We've made this connection. This is what that is.
Yep.
Before I go into what I think this meant, which could make freaking sense to what this is, which is
okay.
What do you think this means? And we're going to go into overtime, whether you like it or not. We got to finish this.
I'm in for sure. Well, okay. The first thing that you already figured out is that, the logo is that you're at the top of the solar system. You're in the 10th sphere and you're looking down. And this is the view that you would have if you were the creator of a solar system. In fact, this is the view that the creators of the solar system have from the top. And the reason, of course, why there's a pyramid is because, well, okay, I shouldn't say of course. I need to explain this a little bit. Okay, so if you guys remember that table that I was describing from a couple slides ago.
I can bring it back up. Which slide was it?
So one with the human chakra, the body's human body chakra system. Yep, that one.
That one right there. Okay.
Okay, so that model, if you guys look for, between 1 and 7, those numbers, and if you go across that line, those 7 numbers are hidden beneath the entire logo. So the body of the pyramid are those 7 numbers and the accompanying planets. So we can't actually see that part. The first thing that we see starts in the 8th, the 8th rung of that ladder, or the 8th part of that table. And the 8th part of that table is the zodiac. So the important thing to remember is that there's a bunch of stuff underneath that, those 12 seats and that primary disk, and it's the 7 planets that we can't see. Those 7 planets are sitting beneath that.
As above, so below.
Right, exactly. It's a perfect copy.
Huh.
Okay, so the 8th sphere, now that we have this pulled up again, is the corollary, of course, is with the zodiac and with the human mind, which is the first chakra above the head. Actually, you know what? We can probably put we can make the TESA can logo big, Ryan. I'm going to go straight to that now that people saw the pyramid.
Okay, let's do this. Kevin said, Moonlight, you said the area view of the pyramid and seal doesn't match up visually. Am I missing something? If what I was trying to say, Kevin, it's kind of hard with this image because I don't have the right software in place. But if I were to I can't even do that with my shirt. But if I were to rotate the image physically, I think it would line up with the what I assume is a Templar cross of some sort.
Yep.
Underneath.
Okay. So hopefully everyone has a general idea of kind of everything we've covered so far, because it's all going to come into play at the same time. That's why I had to do that kind of lead up to the last slide here.
It's like an infomercial, but wait, there's more.
Yeah, and this is when it's going to get very exciting.
All right, let's do this.
I can't wait for the last topic because it has a lot of significance to it. Actually, all of it does, but when we get to
I can't wait to share with you what I've already done, which I don't have time to do. So it's not like a magic trick. It's like it's already been done. Like.
Yep. Okay, so let's go to. I'm just going to look at my computer because I have a little bit bigger. But okay, so again, when we're looking at these 12 seats, I guess call them seats. Do you call them seats, Ryan? Is that what you're calling them?
I mean, there's a few ways to interpret it depending on the orientation. They could be seats. It could be, this could be a wheel. This could be cogs. These could be spokes. It depends on. We don't know what it is.
Okay, well, it's one of. Actually, you know what? Before I get to that, I just want to ask you something because I actually don't know what's going on with one thing here, which is at the corner of the three corners of this pyramid. There's like a few symbols.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think what's going on with that?
So I can tell you that these are Masonic symbols. So this is the 1st degree, 2nd degree, and 3rd degree of Freemasonry.
Oh, okay.
So that's how I was able to indicate orientation, because this is 1 to me. This is familiar to me. This was 1, 2, and 3 at being the top. But with this, and also with the colors here, is the proper orientation for another Masonic thing, which I'll divulge later.
Okay.
So those are Masonic symbols.
Well, I agree with that then. I mean, if you're trying to put number 1 at the top with, of course, the first letter of TESA.
But then, so that pyramid, is that a four-sided pyramid?
Yeah, the one I showed you was 4-sided.
This is a 3-sided pyramid.
Yeah, this is 3-sided. You know, within numerology, of course, if you think about Egypt, obviously, and of course, if you're thinking about Freemasonry, we should be thinking about Egypt, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the 3 is the Trinity, and if you're talking 3 is Trinity. If you're talking 4, it's the 4 seasons, or the 2 solstices and the 2 equinoxes. North, south, east, west, you know, that's what 4 means. So it's just all about how whoever wanted you to draw this, how they have conceived of what's important to them. I'll put it that way. Because, you know, here's a good example. When you talk about Western astrology is very accurate, but Vedic astrology is also very accurate, but they have a lot of differences between them. And Vedic comes from India, Western comes from Egypt, but they're different systems. But they're still all valid, and the difference being that what was being focused on, what was the focal point in terms of what you wanted to convey. And actually, I'll bring up China. If it's a Chinese zodiac, then you're talking about the moon. It's not about the sun anymore. It's about the moon and about the years.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all accurate. It's just how you want to divide it. So when I look at this, I'm like, okay, how did they want to divide it? Whoever gave this to you. So in any case, the 12, there's 2, really in my mind, there's 2 options for that. The first is that somehow each of those 12 seats are representing, of course, 1 sign of the zodiac. That would be the most obvious explanation, but it might also be the 12 houses of the zodiac, which is even more specific. Well, in some ways, it's more specific to they're like different segments of your life. They're like different pockets of your life, the houses. So in terms of trying to fill up all of these seats, I mean, maybe we should, maybe I should go really quickly. I don't want to take up a huge amount of time with this because the rest is more exciting to me. But maybe if I can quickly go through the 12 signs and the 12 houses, then if you start hearing something that fits in with what you're trying to fill in terms of how you're trying to build the organization and everything, which seats you want to fill, then that's going to inform me which one I think it is, because it could be either system.
Okay.
And the orientation,
and I can explain that too with the part I want to show as well. Yeah.
Okay. And the orientation, it definitely matters, but it's a little bit, you know, I can't see what's beneath the green chair and the yellow chair and the red chair and the blue chair. Obviously those are the elements, but they're not similar to the other, you know, black and white symbols. So that's interesting to me. But anyway, so I'm just going to do a really, really quick recap of the 12 signs. And if you start, you know, hearing like paradigms or like themes that are common to what you're trying to do, you know,
I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah. Feel free to stop me. Okay. So it starts with Aries. Now, Aries should be at the far left where that green chair is. I'm not sure if I completely understand yet how it's supposed to be or what it's supposed to be, but we'll give it a shot. Okay, so Aries is the first sign. Aries is the ram, which is the sheep. It's a sheep or the ram. Aries are they're very intense people. They are very focused on taking action and making something happen. They often don't think a lot about before they do something, and they end up getting into trouble or into a fight. Aries are also called the infants of the zodiac because they don't, like I said, they're not really processing. They just take action. No, it's really the motto would be don't think, just do it. Just take the action. That's Aries. Okay, the second one is Taurus, and Taurus is the bull, or the cow or the bull, and Taurus is the one that really takes its time. It enjoys all of the pleasures of life. It appreciates kindness and honesty and communication, things of that nature. They have a really good sense of humor. But like I said, they take their time. That's probably the most important part of Taurus. They can be very stubborn too. The third sign, which is your sign, is Gemini. Gemini are the twins. So in a Gemini person, there's really kind of like two people. I mean, it's the twin mindset. So it's also a really good example of duality. But Geminis really like conversation. They like looking at both sides of things. They like having fun. They're really good at communicating. They look, like I said, look at both sides of the issue. They don't really show emotions. They don't tend to. And then moving to the fourth one, that's going to be Cancer. Cancer is it's a very sensitive sign. They're very generous people. They tend to be somewhat traditional or conservative. They, they're careful about what they do. They don't need to feel safe. They need to have a safe space. Usually it's like their house. Then you have the fifth sign, which is Leo. And Leo those are the kings and queens of the zodiac. That's the lion. So the sun, I'll just point out, the sun rules Leo. It's the only sign that the sun rules. And it makes it, very, very important, very vital in the zodiac, because the sun is the focus for all of astrology. The sun is really the focus when you're talking about the planets, at least. Okay, so Leos tend to be they can be very prideful, but they also have a lot of honor. They believe in doing what's right. They believe in truth. They believe in treating people fairly. But they can be very standoffish too. And if they're not interested, they'll just walk away. They won't say anything. They'll just be gone. Number 7 is going to be Virgo. It's referring to the virgin. So the virgin's they're very conservative. They're very careful. They're very cautious. They're very sweet people. They're very good hosts. They're very good at compiling information and putting things together, pulling data, stuff like that. Let's see, we got 6, 5, 4, 5, 6. That was 6. Excuse me, that was 6. 7 is Libra. So now you're actually in the dark half of the year. Libra starts when the fall starts. And Libras they're interested in balance. Libra is the scale. So they're interested in balancing everything. They want everyone to get along. They're very sweet people. They're very sensitive people as well. They have a hard time making decisions. They can be very indecisive because they're on both sides of the scale. And then the 8th sign, which is where we are right now, it's in Scorpio. And Scorpio is, of course, the scorpion. They tend to be very intense people, but not necessarily in your face intense like an Aries would be. But they have a lot of emotional intensity, and they kind of work behind the scenes. You wouldn't be surprised if you saw a Scorpio kind of hiding out behind the couch, making sure everything is under control. They want to be in control of the situation. They're very observational. If they feel understood, they're very loyal people if they feel understood. Okay, then you have Sagittarius. Sagittarius is it's really the water horse. Some people think of it, this goes back to ancient mythology. It is the horse, but it's really was meant to be the water horse, which is, potentially like a cryptid itself, actually, or a hybrid, or however you want to call it. And Sagittarius is it's like a ball of energy, huge energy. They like to have a good time. They like to laugh. They hate being stressed. They're very likable people. They believe in gaining philosophy, and they value their freedom probably first more than anything. They love to travel. Okay, and then after that, you got Capricorn. Capricorn kicks off the winter season. Capricorn tend to be very serious people. They're also very dedicated and determined. They don't do more than is necessary. They're focused on the goal, and there's really no extra. They just do what's necessary, and they also have kind of a devilish humor. They like to play games, because in fact the devil comes from, well, the motif of Satan. It comes from the goat, which is the sign. It's Capricorn. Capricorn's the goat, so that's why the devil's always associated with the bottom of the zodiac, and why Satan's associated with this, because it's in the darkest. Not the darkest, but it's in the the darkest day of the year, which is the beginning of Capricorn. Okay, then you got 2 signs left. You've got Aquarius. And Aquarius, they're the inventors of the zodiac. They kind of believe in letting people do what they want. Try to give people as much freedom as possible. They try not to get involved as much as possible. They're progressive people. They're humanitarians. They're futuristic. They are all about the machine. Space race, machine, futurism, all this stuff. By the way, that's the age that we're in right now. It's the age of Aquarius. Yeah. So you'll notice that those themes keep coming up in the major news headlines. They're also very serious people. Okay, and the last one is Pisces. Pisces is the sign that is they're the dreamers of the zodiac, and they are very sensitive people. They are the wisest, generally speaking, of all the signs. And they kind of spend most of their time in their own world, and sometimes they don't really show up. If someone's gives you a call or sends you an email, it might be Pisces that just doesn't respond. They just stay home because they're feeling emotional or something. But in actualized, Pisces is a very, very powerful sign. They're pulling from the divine world. Okay, so those are the 12, Ryan. Those are the 12 signs. Oh wow.
Yeah, so I was reading this while you were saying that, so I just want to let you know that what you said might help us figure out the orientation, but I don't want to bring this in until you're ready, but I want to come back to that, okay?
Okay.
This is what I took a picture of earlier of my interpretation of the symbolism and the colors and linking, and if what I read to you the other way around, you tell me what zodiac sign that is, we might have orientation.
Okay.
You understand?
I believe we can. Yep.
Okay, so we won't do that yet, though. So keep going.
Okay, so those are the 12 signs. Now, the other possibility is the 12 houses. Now, the 12 houses, like I said, they're like compartments of life that kind of define certain aspects of your life. They go backwards. It's a little bit different, but they do have a direct association with each sign. But it's a more specific, like I said, fragment of your life. It tells you about that part of your life. So, like I said, it's going backwards, but I'm just going to start listing them. Listing them. The first house is called the personality, and it's also the physical body. It's called the ascendant in astrology. So, it's pretty basic. It's appearance and it's your personality, essentially. That's the first house. The second house is going to be your value system, your finances, and your possessions, things that, material possessions mostly. Third house is a house of communication. Actually, this is your house, Ryan. This is the house of Gemini. This is communication. It's basic kind of low-level life information to make things happen. That's the third house. The fourth house is your home life, and it's also your family life. The fourth house is a very powerful house, actually. One of the 4 most powerful houses. It's the first, it's the 10th, it's the 7th, and then it's the 4th. Okay, that's 4th is home life. The 5th is, and by the way, when I saw that window on that chair, I was thinking 4th house. So
window, which one? This one?
Bottom right.
This one. You think that's?
I'm trying to see what you.
Right here, this one.
Yep. That's the one. Yep.
So 4, 3, 2, 1. So would that be number 1 then? That one?
I guess that would make the one with looks like horns, doesn't it?
This
on the
one
left.
here?
Yeah, just under the green one.
Yeah. Kind of looks like horns.
Well, initially I was thinking that was the first house, but we'll have to talk more about it. Okay. I'm really gonna have to listen to what you say, Ryan, because I'm not.
Yeah, no. Like, I mean, this is good. We'll get somewhere.
Right.
I'm sure of it. Keep going.
Okay, the fifth house is the blossoming of your personality. It's like how you it's how you step into your character. It's the house of Leo. It's a very important one. Although not necessarily the most powerful, but it's still important. The sixth house is your daily regimen. It's like your daily activities, how you do things on a daily basis. It would be like, you get up, you take a shower, you brush your teeth, you eat breakfast. It's like that kind of stuff. The seventh house is your best match. It can be a friendship, it can be a relationship, it can be a business relationship, it can be any of those things. It'll feel very natural, your best match, seventh house. Eighth house is going to be birth, death, sex, and transformation. Any of those topics. The reason for that is this house of Scorpio. Okay, the ninth house is higher wisdom and philosophy, and that's the house of Sagittarius. The 10th house is the second most important house. The 10th house is called the midheaven, or the MC, and the midheaven is your career and your achievement and kind of like your aspirations, things of that nature. It's a very, very important. The 11th house is the house of teamwork and networking. And then the 12th house is it's the dream world. It's the house of dreams, essentially. It's the house of Pisces. So, it can be general or it can be more specific. Obviously, it's going to be based on what you want to do.
It could be all of it. It could. My interpretation will line up with similar things of that, a different way of thinking. But I mean, this might narrow it down.
I think it will. I personally think it will for sure. Okay. Then what you have is, so those are the two possibilities for the 12 that I'm seeing around that. I can't think of another. I don't think it would be possibly anything else besides that, to be honest. Then you have, of course, the 4 elements. Now, this is really important because of where there's a reason it's positioned on or with the signs, essentially, with those 12 signs or 12 seats. And we're going to have to talk about a little into metaphysics.
Okay.
So the 8th sphere, which this whole zodiac, all these seats, these 12 seats, including these the elements on the 4 elements, is the transition from the immaterial world into, I shouldn't say it that way. It's a transition from no structure into structure. That's the best way to put it. So it's when in some ways, it's when the immaterial becomes material. And that's why you have these elements there, because in order for you to create matter, it has to go through the 4 elements. And, this is from the ancient world. It's a very well-known teaching. And, of course, the top left, you have fire. The red one, of course, is fire. The top right is water. And those are also the male and female paradigms. You got the masculine and then the feminine. The fire is masculine, the water is the feminine. And then you have over on the far right, that's air. The yellow is air. And then over on the far left, that's earth. So the order and there's an order too. The order it goes through is it actually comes from ether first, which is, probably the next circle up we'll start talking about. But it goes from ether, it has to go through fire. That's where the spirit gets its flame. That's where all the spirits get their life from. Then it goes through, actually goes through the air. Then it goes through the water. Then it goes through the earth. And you'll notice that the densities, they're increasing. The more it materializes, goes through each of these elements, and it starts to stamp it. So in addition to things that are immaterially becoming material, you're also having the world. It's really the dream world, or I'm going to get to that in a second. But the dream world, it materializes into these 12 signs, which creates the mind of the human. And between creating the mind and creating the body, you have everything covered there. I mean, you have the 12 signs, plus you have the 4 elements. I couldn't have done that better myself if I tried. I mean, that's perfect.
Don't scare me like that.
No, it's perfect. The top 2, even how it was positioned, you want to have, I would have been okay if the yellow and blue were flipped, if those 2 chairs were flipped. However, the way that they did it here is that you have the masculine principle next to the feminine principle, which probably, it's probably more important to have it that way. because you're looking for the balance, and in between them, that's where everything starts. That's where the T is. That's where the first degree is. It's the summer solstice. And I mean, everything is being celebrated at that top where that puzzle piece is. That one.
And what's interesting too is like this is first degree, this is second. So, and this is third. So the orientation for degrees is left to right. But then we're reading the zodiac, the other way. So, there's this spinning element that I'm starting to see that maybe these things are separate.
Well, you know what, Ryan, like I was saying before, if you're reading the signs, starting at that green chair, you read the signs clockwise. And when you read the houses, starting at the green chair, you read them counterclockwise. So, I mean, they're probably overlapping, it sounds like.
2 layers. Because we can't really see, because perception, whether I'm looking forward or looking down or looking up at it, however the orientation is meant to be viewed, because this is this way, but we could be looking up at it. I don't know how thick those layers are or how many layers would be within it unless I rotate it. Okay, I'm gonna blow your mind after this. Oh my god!
I can't wait. Okay, so I got 2 more pieces.
Okay, all right, let's do this.
So the next step up. So now that we've addressed the 12 chairs, the 12 signs, and then the 4 elements. The next step up is the yin yang. Now, that would be equivalent to, and it actually might include the Templar cross. That I think they might be on top of each other in terms of they might be attached.
Okay.
Something is attached. One of those 3. Okay, either the yin yang is attached to the Templar cross, or the Templar cross is attached to that gray circle at the very top. I don't know which one it is. It's one of the 2.
Yeah, I was having a hard time figuring that out too, because I've broken this up into layers myself. Okay.
Well, I would say, based on what I know, I would say that the red cross is attached to the yin yang.
Okay.
And I fully believe that gray circle is standing by itself for sure.
And that's interesting because that's kind of where I'm feeling comfortable too.
Oh, okay, great.
I'm going to be referring to this video for life. I'm going to use this as video testimony for like this research moving forward. So I'm going to get I'm going to get everything out in the open on this one episode, and then I'm just going to save this link. And then when the book comes out, I'll be transcribing this whole damn thing.
Perfect.
Holy shit.
Okay, so I bet you weren't expecting this level,
No, well, the thing is like it's what I hoped for. It's what I thought. Like it's not for me. It doesn't make sense to me. And I'm really I am very grateful that you took the time to do all this on your own. And I'm pleased that I'm able to give you the opportunity to teach me something and our audience something and go through this. This is something we don't normally do in this podcast. I mean, you're with me for life now because I'm going to be like, hey, I learned something new. What does this mean? Like, you're really bringing me down a rabbit hole here because like I'm exploring that experience your side. This is an experience for me, but I'm trying to. You're bringing me through this whole, okay, it's normal. Okay, it's human. Okay, no, good. It's extraterrestrial. Oh no, it's ghosts. Like I'm trying to I'm trying to identify where this message came from, but like it's so this is good.
Well, I think you'll see who it is in a minute. I very strongly believe I know who it is.
So do I, but I'll wait till you get there.
Okay. So we've got the yin and yang, of course. I'm just going to say it's attached to the red cross. Now, the red, okay, I'll start with the yin and yang. Okay, so the yin and yang, obviously, it's a very popular symbol. We already talked about there should be a small little circle on each of the, a black small circle underneath that T and a white small circle underneath the S. I would expect that to be there because there's always a small part of the opposite contained within, the opposite. Not the opposite, but the one that you're talking about. Okay, so this is just, it's absolutely genius. Now, if you go to that puzzle piece at the top, we're going to follow this black segment.
Okay.
And the reason and I've never, ever seen this I didn't even have a chance to think of it this way, but I'm going to start thinking of it this way now because I think this is the proper. I would even say this is probably where the yin yang came from. And there's probably some people over in Asia who have better insight than me, but this is what I think just based on what I'm saying. Start that puzzle piece. You're going to notice that the black is increasing as you continue to follow that to the end of that black portion.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what's happening is that you're actually losing light.
Okay.
In that half of the year. That's the reason that that's happening.
Yeah.
And the point where you have the least light is, of course, at the bottom.
Yeah.
Which is where the black portion stops. And then it's the opposite for the light portion, is that starting at that circle at the bottom.
Yeah. Even if this is what blows my mind with all this stuff too, because if I'd have to do hypnosis on this, but I mean, if I were to go back and even if I had that moment of creative thought where I was like, maybe I want to orient, because I could have oriented the cross crooked. I could have oriented the yin yang crooked too. But now that links up.
Oh yeah, I fully believe that yin yang is proper. That's how it's supposed to be. Because the light side, when we were talking about the winter solstice, if you start at that white circle at the bottom, you're increasing in light every day. Yeah. So, and by the way, when you start increasing in light, it's a few seconds a day. That's mathematically representing that, because the further you follow that, now you're getting more and more light every day till you get to the summer solstice at the very top, which is the widest part of that white portion. So that's telling you about the cycle, and like you said too, Ryan, it's telling you about the moon, the sun, and the moon, and how that play too. But it's also teaching you about the darkness, which is the right half of the year. Well, in one interpretation, and then the light period, which is the left part of the year, or the death cycle, which is the right part, the black part, and then the life cycle, which is the white part on the left. Okay. So now the red cross, if you put the red cross together with the yin yang, I believe what you have is a portal.
Fuck me. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's, if you were to spin that like a top, we all know what that yin yang would look like. It would start to vortex,
So everybody who is like, we're approaching the second hour, we are going to go over time because I am going to explain my version of this. And I absolutely freaking promise you that everything that he's saying will line up to what I haven't said yet. So please stick around. And Sil, I'm sorry, I'm going to be going to bed a little bit late, but I hope you stay and watch this. This is a lifetime moment for me right now. We got to see this freaking through the end. Okay, keep going.
Okay, so the yin yang together with this red cross, which they both represent a portal. Even separately, they would represent a portal. And actually, it's also a wormhole, Ryan. I mean, if you look at the T, you're going from the T to the S. That's how a wormhole looks. You got the toroidal field and everything. It's so if you have a wormhole that goes this orientation, and then you have a wormhole that goes this orientation, actually what you have is the structure of light, because this is the electric axis and this is the magnetic axis. That's how light works.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, so
I'm over my F limit. Sorry. Sorry, KPNL radio. I'm over my F-bomb limit.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, that's how that's how wormholes work, even taken separately. That does look, the fluted end, it's usually how you draw a wormhole. People will be familiar with that. But then together.
So is there any relation to the Templar cross and the time travel wormhole, like based on any of your world religion studies? Well,
the Templar cross, I mean, to me, the best connection would be probably to Freemasonry.
Well, yeah. Well, like it is connected to Freemasonry, and that's why I identify that as a Templar cross. But we still have that disc on top that we can't, we don't see what's underneath these layers. So right. It's challenging.
Well, I would say that. I mean, now I'm thinking about the colors actually, because. Okay, well, let me just put it this way: the black and the white and the red, which let's say they're all on the same level, this would be the 9th level. It represents the dream world. So this is ruled by Neptune, this level. And what you're going to have is actually, it's going to be a lot like this. The dream world is full of a bunch of swirling colors.
So the dream world's the portal. The dream world is the freaking portal.
It is the portal, and actually, it gets even more interesting, which I'll describe to you in a second. But before everything takes form, before it materializes, it goes through the elements and the 12 signs. Then you have a, it's like you're kind of trying to construct stuff, and like you're trying to. I don't know how to describe this. If you took some clay and you're trying to make something in art class or something, well, do I want it to look like a circle or like a square or like a rectangle or like a human? So you're kind of experimenting with the different forms and stuff, but you haven't solidified it yet. And that experimentation is happening with this black and white and red. And it is the portal, you're right. And I think that in terms of it being red, in addition to a Templar cross, I also, the first chakra is also red. Aries is also associated with red. So when you get red, it means action. It's like, let's do this. It's like the first
engage.
Yeah, it is right. It's like engage is the first burst of energy that's going to come into the creative process. And then that happens before the materialization. Okay. So the last thing I want to say about the 9th, which is the white and black and red section, is that in the model of the solar system, this is also called the crystalline sea. And the crystalline sea can also be called the glass ceiling. And the way that by the way, this is in the religious texts. This is in the Bible. This is in, I believe, the Quran as well. It's probably in several others. And it actually talks about the vaults above the above the earth and everything, which is the spheres. The days of creation, the 7 days, which is, of course, the 7 chakras, the 7 planets, however you want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And this 9th level is the barrier between the entire solar system and our creators. And the creators live in the 10th sphere. So we'll get to that in a second.
Oh my! I already know where you're going.
Yeah, you know where I'm going with this for sure.
No.
No. Okay, so it has. I can see both ways. I see positive things and I see possibly difficult things. But in any case, so in this 9th level, the crystalline sea it's actually really fascinating, Ryan. I should try to find it and send it to you. The description of what I believe it's Enoch, what Enoch sees when he gets taken up in my opinion, by an extraterrestrial craft. I believe he was taken up. I forgot about
Enoch. Oh my God, yes.
So he was taken up and he saw the crystalline sea. And the way it was described was that it was not glass, but it was not water, but it was kind of in between that. So what I think of is, again, it's like it's a force field. Mm-hmm. It's a barrier that's not quite physical, but it's you know what it is? It's a dimensional barrier. That's the way that I want to put it. So there's a dimensional barrier between the 9th and the 10th. And that's the glass. That's where the glass ceiling phrase comes from. It's talking about the crystalline sea, which is the last step between the creation and the creators. Okay. I know
wait, there's more.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's say you could get through that 9th level.
Yeah.
Now you're in the 10th.
Are we also talking by levels? Would that also translate to dimensions?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is completely dimensional. In addition.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
So the 10th dimension or the 10th sphere or the 10th chakra, they're all the same thing, actually, is where you're going to find your creators. And of course, the first, even if you hadn't studied any of ancient history, I mean, I remember from middle school learning about world religions. And the first thing that you learn about, one of the first things is about, of course, Mesopotamia and about cuneiform. And about the first writing system and all of these things. So, and you have to think, they lived in between these 2 big rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris, and there was clay everywhere. So, all you have to do is step in the clay and you go back the next day, it's hardened. You're like, oh, that's a great writing system. All you have to do is get a little stylus, a little piece of wood or something so you can put the writing in. So in any case, the top symbol, my understanding is it means God or heaven. And I think you said Anu, correct?
It's Anu is that's the oldest symbol for God, which means, sky god or Lord of the sky. King of the sky. On
Yep.
means king and U means sky, I guess, in Sumerian command form.
Well, that's really interesting because actually Uranus is father sky, and that starts with U. You know, you are, and also the city of Ur. You know, Uranus, Ur, okay, same thing. Okay, so what we end up with, well, I mean, there's a couple symbols there. You obviously have the Star of David, which represents the masculine and again the feminine together, unified.
And you know what? When you said Enoch, it reminded me of the Merkaba, which could have been his chariot or whatever device he saw. I didn't see that Star of David as the Merkaba until you mentioned Enoch. So if that's a portal, and then that's the vessel.
Yeah, that's how you get through the portal, right?
Yeah.
Which is true. That's true. Yeah. That's how you know, the star tetrahedron, the human body forms a 3D, obviously, version of the two pyramids, one inverted on top of the other one. Yeah. That's your vehicle for traveling through wormholes, and that's I believe how orbs are structured. If you talk about, you know, take a picture and you see an orb, I actually think it's Merkaba, and that's how you travel through, you know, astrally travel and all this stuff too. It's these little balls.
See, I made this for those of you guys who are following me this far, just for context, I made all this before I learned all the stuff that I know now, FYI. And now I'm realizing that this is where it's all coming from.
Yeah. Now this star also points to, you see, if you look at the points of the six, what is it, 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's pointing to what are called the cross quarter days of the zodiac. So the top left, it's pointing towards Taurus. The top right one is pointing towards Leo. The bottom right is pointing towards Scorpio, and the bottom left is pointing towards Aquarius. And then, of course, the top is pointing towards Cancer, and the bottom is pointing towards Capricorn.
Okay.
So there's just meaning on top of meaning on top of meaning. I find it interesting that it's gray, actually, because, I mean, I think about clay, Ryan, you know, Mesopotamia was all clay.
What was it? Wasn't it red clay? It wasn't or was it gray?
Oh, was it red? I don't know.
I don't know.
But if it was red, we have red sitting right underneath that. You know, the first creation, or whatever. So anyway, the 10th sphere is called the primum mobile in the ancient model. It means the first movement. And this is actually something that came up really recently when I was talking with one of my friends. And traditionally, the 10th sphere is said to be ruled by Pluto. But the problem with that is that Pluto is very similar to a lot of other bodies that are out next to it, out in the outer solar system. Yeah, I think that part was a fairly recent discovery, is that they realized it's not that different from a lot of the bodies that surround it. A lot of these small icy bodies that surround it. I believe it's the biggest one, but it's very similar to a huge number of other icy, you know, rock masses out there. So now when you couple this with Planet X, that's when it's going to get really interesting, because Planet X...
Yeah, but you haven't gone past 10, so I was wondering when you were going to bring in the other two. Yeah.
The other two, which ones?
Well, are there not 12 planets, or are there 10?
Oh, no. Well, there's 10, but there's 12 aspects of the mind. That's the mental creation. The mental creation's based in 12. The model of the solar system is 10.
Okay. So Planet X, so you're saying that this final level, this orb here is Nibiru, Planet X.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's definitely Nibiru. And
sideways.
You know, it's invisible, but we know it's affecting the orbits of Neptune at least. I thought Uranus as well. And the scientists have said it. They said, well, it's such a huge mass that we know it's affecting these outer orbits, but we can't see it. We don't know what it is. We don't know where it is. So you know what? Of course they're going to be invisible. They're the ones that control this whole system. They can do whatever they want.
So with it being as intricate in layers and all this other stuff and symbolism and all this other stuff, and this being a Sumerian device, let's just assume that the creator, if it's Anunnaki, Sumerian, using the base of 60, is there any way to indicate time, like a when? Like, is this a message? Is this instructions? Is this just the
Well,
answer?
I think it's
Like,
definitely.
hey, find me. Like, what the?
Well, it's showing us who created the solar system. That's number one. And then the second thing it's showing us is how they created it, and how you go from thought, it moves through the elements, and then it moves. Well, there's probably kind of two things happening simultaneously. Probably the first thing that happens is it goes through the mind. So it crystallizes as the 12. Okay, imagine this. Imagine a Sumerian god or an Anunnaki. When they create something, it happens. The first thing that happens is a thought. Then that thought, it has to move as light, invisible probably initially, as light through, invisible to us. It has to go through. It has to go through the dream world. So they're thinking, that's sort of the thoughts kind of are coming in, and they're experimenting with different forms of that nature, and then it gets stamped into the 12, which is the mind structure. That's the thinking aspect of the world, and then the physical structure gets stamped from the elements, those 4 elements. You got both happening at the same time. So I think they're showing how they created this. That's number one, and what it is, and how it's consistent with all the models that have been taught through the ancient past. And it's only recently that we've kind of come away from some of these, or a lot of these, in my opinion, original teachings. But what you have is, they're up in the 10th sphere, they're on their planet, and this is their view from their planet. When they look down, they see the portal through the 9th dimension, they see the mind being created, and then they see the body being created, which is the pyramid aspect. And those, of course, the planets. All the planets exist underneath this whole diagram. Planets are part of the pyramid. And then the 12 is, of course, that's the zodiac, which is above that. Well, Uranus is there too, but it's above that. So, now the question comes down to, well, in terms of TESA though, I think it's also, what I'm thinking it's like, I feel like they're reaching out, Ryan, and they're saying, let's get this extraterrestrial question coordinated so that we can start to make better sense of it. And let's get the proper people involved, and let's get this baseline information correct.
And that's been my mission the entire time. That's what I'm doing, is matchmaking, trying to find the right people. And I have these rules and this philosophy, and that's where their chair system kind of comes from. That's where I feel. And do you have more to share, or can I get into this part? Because this will line right up.
Yeah, no, I'm ready, Ryan.
You're ready for this now? Okay. So interesting enough, this is what's written here on the side is my interpretation at the very beginning of me trying to understand why and what this is. So for me, with my analytical thinking, recognizing the symbols, I was thinking symbolism. These symbols mean something. The colors mean words, and they mean feelings and emotions. And if these are chairs, these are emotions and traits and characteristics that would belong to these chairs. Like, I'm thinking physical people that sit in these chairs as these team. But then you're saying zodiacs and houses and stuff like that. So maybe that's another element to be like, okay, someone who sits in these chairs has these qualities, but also is in that zodiac. So I got to kind of like get that element. Me as a Gemini sitting in the Gemini chair, but do I possess those elements? I don't know, unless we can establish orientation, because I've been trying to figure out, like, where one starts on this. But then that's why I thought with the Masonic symbols that orientation was 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 for counterclockwise, but then TESA was clockwise. So it's a cog. It's like it's time. It's too many things are turning. So it's hard for me to determine layers. That's why I thought layers, and that's why I thought different orientations of spinning. Spinning was essentially the motion.
Yep.
So what this is this, I just took, printed off a black and white copy, and then me tried to make sense of it. So can I bring this up twice? Can I open it? No, I can't open up two. So what I did.
Hey, you know what else it might be, Ryan? I just want to forget.
Yeah.
It might actually be, one of their craft as well. Because
you are just stay to the end. Okay. Your mind will be blown too, because okay, so this is first level 1, first dimension, me trying to figure out what it is. So we got a plumb rule. So that basically means upright code of conduct having standards. So that's kind of the symbolism behind that symbol. So I don't know if this is a layer. This might itself be a layer, like on the pyramid. Pyramid might be a layer of itself. Or this is a carpet, and this is a round table, and these are chairs, or however. That's how I was trying to break the layers up. So
it might be the cornerstones of the pyramid, Ryan.
It could be, yeah. So then we go to second degree, which is level, which is the level. That's the symbol, but it stands for equality and being fair, balance. Okay, so as I mentioned,
that's
these
interesting.
Do those match with any? Let me know this, because we want to find the orientation, right? So, and then on the right side, the third degree is the square, which means union, completion, perfection, and no conflict. So there's three, essentially, within the TESA model, I keep referencing three pillars. There's the support side, there's the science side, and then there's the investigative side. There's those three pillars. First degree, there's the rules of three. Even in the business model, there's those 3 degrees, those 3 levels. Cornerstone, as you mentioned, foundation at the bottom. There's that symbolism there, even with the business structure, which I just all of a sudden knew for no freaking reason, but drawing from the symbol. So then going at the chairs, each of these chairs, I guess I focused on the symbol and the color. So for this, starting with Aries, I guess that'd be the first of the zodiac, right? Aries.
Yeah, it traditionally starts with Aries. Yeah.
So let's assume that's the red one then. Okay. So let's assume that's Aries, because that's the only thing I can think for orientation, at least on this level. To get into that, there's also another Masonic symbol here. Have you ever heard of the Order of the Eastern Star?
I have heard of that one. Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up a quick picture of that for reference.
Is that the bottom left one? Is that what that is?
No, hold on. So the Order of the Eastern Star, which is the female fraternity for Masonry. Because a lot of people don't realize that there is a female offshoot as well. So I just downloaded that. Just give me a second. I will pass it on here. All right. So this is the Order of the Eastern Star. So you notice the orientation of the colors.
Oh, very good.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, that is good. That is great. So with that, I was able to tell orientation as well for that level, because this is how the symbol is. That's how I'm trying to get orientation. But that orientation is left to right. I'd have to look at my teachings now to figure out which is the first pillar. It might actually be down here. Sil, I don't know if you remember when we went in. Is this the first pillar? I can't remember. If it is, that would make sense, because that's the start. That's your December 21, right?
The white one, you're saying?
The white one.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, what is that, a crown or something?
Yeah. So these symbols, that's a symbol for the crown, but that's not on here. But those might relate to these symbols here relate to female. Significant females within the Christian Bible. So I will mention those in this thing too. So the point of this was for the colors. So we got red, blue, green, yellow, and white. So this is kind of how I thought orientation. Right?
Oh wow! Okay, I see what you're saying.
Do you see it now? Do you see it now?
Well, I saw the colors, but I just didn't see the white one. But I see the whites lined up.
Yeah,
too.
The white one right down there at the bottom.
Okay.
So with that symbol in mind, okay, the red chair, we got the color. So the deity or the goddess mentioned in that was Electa. So Electa is the one in that section within the Eastern Star.
Right, so
Yeah,
maybe those colors are supposed to be women for the organization then.
exactly. A balance of male and female duality. All
Okay,
right.
right.
So we're getting there. So Electa stands for virtue, persecution, and charity. Those are the symbolism behind it. And then the symbol in the middle here stands for fire, which means wisdom and knowledge. So you have red, you even have the fire symbol. So there that can't be a coincidence. We got the fire symbol there on top of the red chair, and then the color itself. Where did I explain the color? I broke the color down too somewhere else. Oh yeah, red, which means passion, love, adventure, fire, and powerful. So to me, that's why I was thinking I need to look for these types of people to fit in these chairs with those personalities and those characteristics. But then so now with the zodiac perspective, this could be properly oriented if this was Aries.
If the red one, you're saying.
Yeah. So what is?
Well, here's the thing. Now, Aries is supposed to be where that green chair is.
Okay.
But here's the weird part, Ryan, is that I was just thinking about this when you were talking. I feel like these colors might be like a slide that's on top of another symbol.
Yeah, so there could be another layer. Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's underneath that.
Another layer, which means that these chairs are transparent, or like there's something underneath it, like that star, right? That makes total sense. So that could be the star symbol underneath that layer, and that makes it transparent. I'm writing that down because that's going to. Yeah, go ahead.
You know what I'm gonna do now? I'm gonna start looking at it. I'll just not ignore, but I'm going to put aside the colors for a minute. I'm going to focus on the black and white ones and see if I can make the black and white ones fit.
Yeah.
Assuming there might be another black and white one underneath the green, red, blue, yellow, and all
so
those.
So then there's your 12. There's your 12 layers. You counted 10, and that makes 12. That makes sense. Interesting. Yep. Interesting. Yep. Guys, this is real science happening right now. There's your, this is he shared his work. I'm sharing mine for the first time. We're in hour number 3. We're going overtime to figure this out. So let
me just say one thing, Ryan.
Yeah.
I really feel like that bottom left one, it really looks like horns to me.
This one here. Okay. So this one, where's my symbol? So that symbol to me, I identified as music and harmony. The reason for that, I'll tell you this, is if these are the 5 elements, 5 Eastern Star, all the 5 girls, all the 5 ladies in Eastern Star, plus all of the elements. Now you mentioned 4, but you forgot the ether. You forgot spirit. Spirit is right here. That's the 5th element. The ether right here.
Where is that, Ryan?
That would be the white.
Oh, okay.
That is a symbol for spirit. That circle, and that color white. So spirit, celestial energy, metaphysical. White stands for purity.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Protection, spirit, spirituality, and then the female for that chair is as Esther or ether. Which stands for light, purity, joy, and all that other, and that as well. So the reason why I know that I believe this to be harmony is because these chairs here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you got 5 and 7, which makes 12. 5 elements, but 7 liberal arts of science. Science and art. You understand what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, different departments or whatever.
Exactly. So we have grammar, we have we have logic and understanding.
Wait, which one's that one? Right.
Grammar would be the puzzle piece.
Okay.
Grammar and knowledge. Logic and understanding would be this lightning bolt, from what I think. This spiral universe, rhetoric, wisdom. The next one here, this window, is mathematics, numbers, equality, because we have shape, Pythagorean theorem there, and then we go into this element here, which is geometry, so which would be dimensional. And then we have music and harmony. And then we have astronomy and cosmology. So those 7 liberal arts and science have a sequence in that order if this is the proper orientation.
Which one is the cosmogony one?
That would be this one. Oh, sorry. This one right here.
Oh, okay.
So grammar. Then we have logic. Then we have rhetoric or wisdom. Then we have mathematics. Then we have geometry. Then we have music. Then we have astrology or astronomy. So there's your 7 liberal arts, and then you have your elements, right? Fire, water, air, earth, and spirit. So energy.
Man,
so then
fantastic.
yeah, so that's me trying to understand, okay, if someone's going to sit in these seats and these are the characteristics that they mean, which is why it's important to find orientation, because I do believe it to be zodiac oriented as well. So then the next, so assuming that this is a table, then we have the yin yang, but the darkness, which you mentioned, and light, so good and bad, duality, right?
And portal.
And then a portal, and so then this where do I'm trying to find my symbols here for the cross. Boy, I also broke down the letters too. Where's my line for the cross and Templar cross? Somewhere.
You know what it seems like?
Oh yeah, Crusaders, the Knights of the Templar, footprint of traditional routes is what I wrote there. Traditional roots, footprint of traditional roots, and the Templar. That's what the symbol means. Sorry, what were we going to say?
Well, I think it's also trying to bring together all of these ancient organizations
that know the truth, that have the word, that have the answers, and which leads to Masonry, right? Masonry has the key, that is the word.
Yeah, that's when they're gonna communicate with us, Ryan. You know, get people who know what they're doing and who respect the universe. You know, and then maybe they'll come down and talk with us directly.
Then in here, I saw the Seal of Solomon. If you include the Star of David as well as the circle and these dots, this is actually the Seal of Solomon.
Oh, is it really? Okay.
It certainly is, and that's another Masonic symbol. So where is, I'm just going to follow my Seal of Solomon right here. It says magic, occult, alchemy, speak through consciousness. That's what that symbol means, according to some of the research that I've done. Coincidence at that level?
No way.
No way. Then I count numbers here, right? I was thinking zodiac, some symbols too. Again, orientation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 12. So I thought, I'm just assuming the orientation's at the top. And then, of course, Anu, I saw too, as representing the supreme god, ancestor of all, and associated with the constellation Draco, to the Draconians. So, which is the Anunnaki Sumerians. So all that.
Now that. Sorry, Ryan. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's kind of, there's another layer. There's more for me too, but let's break that down. So that is my interpretation of trying to figure out what way to look at it, and if these are seats, who or what would be placed in said seats, and the focus being on the center. So looking at this as a table, but then you've got to look at it in the other dimensions, which you broke down too. So it's got to mean something in every dimension, because you have to travel through all the dimensions to get the big picture. You got to look at every single dimension, and I'll lead into that. So what are your comments for that?
Well, I mean, now that when you brought up the Seal of Solomon, I'm thinking geographically now too, because you have a lot of parts of the world represented. I mean, you know, yin yang obviously from the east, Templar from Europe and the Middle East and Europe, and then you got the Jewish tradition with the Seal of Solomon, plus the Sumerian tradition with the cuneiform.
Everything points to the east. Look at, in Masonry, in order to identify yourself as another Mason out in the public, you say, look well to the east, or are you traveling to the east? Those are Those are kind of keywords that we use to ask someone if you're a Mason, because there's a response to that. If you're a Mason, you know the answer to say that, and that we're only allowed to communicate to each other. But so east.
I agree. And of course, the east is where the spring equinox is, which is that's the rebirth.
Now look at
and Easter too.
Now, is there any significant to moving EAST? East is spelt if I move this way, creating a zigzag pattern. Do you see any significance in That's what I'm saying with orientation. 1, 2, like.
Well, you're moving to. If you start with the E and you go to the A,
yeah,
that is east. It's
yeah.
flipped. It's crazy because it's flipped because astrology is looking at from the sky.
Yeah.
So that green is actually technically the east if we're to look at the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's genius. Absolute brilliant. EA, yeah, you're going all the way to the east. And oh wow.
Yeah. And what?
Did you just see what I just spelled?
Well, EA.
Yeah, just that.
Experiencers Anonymous. EA.
Oh, I didn't realize that either.
But I think you're going to go to the god, Prince Ea, or EA, and Sumerian Enki, right? Which is Babylonian or Poseidon, like however, Sumerian.
Wait a minute now. What about Poseidon? What is the reference to that?
Well, allegedly, like Enki is the lord of the land, and he is a water god. His abode was perhaps in in Atlantis or in the sky, wherever Atlantis is. There's a connection to Atlantis with Enki, so therefore he might be Poseidon, in Sumerian roots. So we have
Poseidon is another word for Neptune.
Okay.
And the waters of Neptune, that's the crystalline sea, Ryan.
So you're going to have to save this video as well, too, and go back to the drawing board, because we're going to have to do a part 2. So that's interesting. So, Serena, you popped in here. What did you say? Establishing connections back through time. Each area, region, civilization is connected by things, higher dimensional beings, regarding the symbols from different regions.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
She also said mosaic on the floor. That's a good point too. Esther was the only one I could remember. Never was an Eastern Star, but I was a Job's daughter. Okay, interesting. So all the 5 ladies is Electa, Ada. We have let me go back here. Ada. Who is this one? Ruth. Pardon me, Ruth. Then we have Esther, then we have Martha, and then Electa. So those are the 5 ladies, and then those ladies are obviously are the wives of significant people with men within the Bible, and then that's the Masonic tradition that how the Masonic bloodline is carried on through the women, not through the men, and the men protect the women. Like there's that duality even in the Bible, and that and that links to Jesus being a Mason and Mary and all that other stuff. There's so many things in that. Okay, so I got another layer to show. Are you ready for this, or do you got more you want to add?
Well, no, I'd like to see this first. I'll say something in a minute, but I'd like to see what you got.
Well, no, go ahead, because this is a whole nother dimension.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just say something I didn't address yet. Is that uniform symbol?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the orientation of that, you see the spokes on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's also representing the zodiac as well. You've got the 4 cardinal points, mm-hmm. and then the 4 points between that are called the 4 cross quarter points, which is mid-season. But what's interesting to me the most about this is that all of those they look like flowers, I guess, but all of those inverted triangles at the tops of those spokes,
mm-hmm.
they're all oriented towards the east as well. And that quadrant of the year, like I'd already explained a while back, is the quadrant when the sun is gaining in light every day. It's gaining in strength.
Yeah.
So it's saying, it's saying focus on the east. Focus on the winter solstice to the summer solstice.
A thought just came in too. If this was a dream state, is it possible that this is? I just thought of this now. Is it possible that I have drawn this backwards, like mirror imaged? Shouldn't this image be flipped?
Well, that's interesting you bring that up, because that's one of the confusions that happens when if you were to type in zodiac into Google or something, you get different orientations, and some of those orientations are flipped, Ryan. Actually, some of the zodiacs get flipped because it depends on if you're on Earth looking up, or if you're in the heavens looking down at Earth, and that will flip the diagram. So yeah, actually, you know what? It could be flipped, and it could also be spun.
Yeah. So we need to determine. So what we can confirm is we need to define how many layers and what those layers are, and we need to define orientation of each of those layers, and then we can kind of figure more of the symbolism after, right?
Yeah, I agree, and I also think that I mean, what I see right in front of me is also really good. I don't see anything really wrong with it. You know, it all makes sense to me.
Interesting enough here. I don't know much about this to comment on, but this is the 32nd degree encampment symbol in Freemasonry. I can't make it much bigger, but oh yeah, no, I can. These represent the 12 zodiac symbols.
Okay. Yep. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
So this was an interesting connection that I made to that. I'll send you all that.
Okay.
Afterwards. So me playing now, us looking at this in first dimension. Again, there's orientation. So like we're looking at it this way. You know, I also thought, what if I look up at it? What if I look down at it? Because we don't know how this message was coming through. I could be looking through it, but maybe we're meant to look up, or like you said, maybe to be looking down. So if it is a table, then I'm looking down. But if it's not a table, I'm looking through. You understand?
Right. Well, if it's coming from the human perspective, then you should be looking up, obviously. If it's coming from the creator's perspective, you should be looking down.
Right. So if I'm looking up at that, so that again, so as above, so below. So on the concept of this being changing the orientation, let's just say, there's also a lot of images that are distracting here. So I remove the background and I just cut it so I can see it differently, right? So I'm trying to think of how to see it in many different ways. So what I ended up doing is cutting it out in shapes and what layers, so I could see it without the colors, without the symbols, so I wouldn't be distracted with all that information and just look at it as it is. So what do you see? What do you see without all that distraction removed?
Well, you know what I was going to say before? It kind of looks like a propeller, also of a kind of a craft again.
Okay.
If you're looking at the center of the propeller and the propeller's moving around like that, you know.
Mm-hmm. So now that I have
it looks like a gear too.
Yeah, exactly. Now that it's three-dimensional, I'm able to being outside of it and look at it from many different angles. You know, so I started to play with it and look at it from many different angles. And then I started to think, well, maybe, you know, what can't I see? You know, is there another layer? Is it that duality? Is that bottom piece, the veil, and then into the ground, kind of as you explained before? So I started to duplicate it and make two different versions of it, as above, so below. You know, try to add them together to see, you know how they would connect, right? I'll send you all these pictures and stuff for you for downstairs. You know, so this is just kind of work.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, Ryan. Looks great.
But then I started to think a little bit further. Okay, what if these are pyramids, right? So using the rule of 3 as my scale. It matched to be a pyramid. But then I try to think, okay, what does it look like standing up? So then I'm holding it standing up. And then I start to, without that negative space, I'm starting to see layers, what looks like a stargate, a pyramid, and possibly a ship. So I couldn't figure out for the life of me whether the Templar cross was part of the portal or the ship.
The ship going into the portal, you're saying?
You see that now you're looking at this one way, but how is it also possible, three-dimensionally created, looking at it this way, that this makes sense in this many layers from a different direction? How does that make sense? And that's where I was losing my mind, is because it's geometrically sound in order to create these and this is my brain trying to figure it out, but at the same time having moments of creativity. Am I being guided, or am I just trying to make sense of this, right? Not under the influence, any of this other stuff, like just trying to freaking make sense of it. Then there's the color test. So same idea, but then now with colors, without the symbols. So I'm trying to look at it differently to determine and figure out what makes sense for layers and what makes sense for orientation. So I feel like I'm on the right path, but if you are on the right path, if we can establish orientation, then I can move these things in the right orientation, right? You take this, all I really did is took that image and I cut it in many layers, and then I played with it, and then I built it with pieces of wood. So I had this working model, and I just so I could determine what the layers are. And I was trying to make sense of that. So now what I'm trying to do with these part is trying to make it move. So this is me building a little bit of a way to make this move. And I'm going to show you right now. That I've done that.
Wow, great idea.
So it rotates on its axis. That motion blur hides the triangle, right? Now I'm looking at a different angle here. That looks like a UFO.
Yep.
So then I started thinking, and it could all mean all of this. It's all connected. This is how we're trying to figure it out. So then I started thinking that these sightings of these triangles, the reason why they're seeing triangles is because it's the bottom of the craft, and this is the top. So this saucer is the top, the triangle is the bottom, and when it rotates that way, it creates that blur to motion blur. So what I haven't done yet is the same thing with the color. When I do the color test, this is inspiring me to continue that project now, I'm hoping, or I hypothesize, that I will see this portal effect with the blurring of the colors. Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely.
And I haven't. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, who else does that are the I'm trying to use the right term here. I think it's the whirling dervishes out of Morocco.
Okay.
Have you seen this presentation by William Henry before?
No.
Okay, well he was in Egypt, and he went to some kind of presentation, I guess. And what they do is they do the spinning motion, and they have all different colors on their clothing, and it creates the same exact thing, right? It creates what looks like a UFO and a portal and a toroidal field and a wormhole and all this stuff. And he took a picture of it, and it looks exactly like a UFO, but it has to be in motion, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't have its proper form.
And then I also thought about your multiple layers with the wheel. Okay, so these colors being its own layer, and then these chairs parts being its own layer, and then using a duplicate layer, assuming that there's two, that they fold into each other to make a three-dimensional shape. The only way to display that was to create a 3D model of it. and this is what I got out of it. And when that spins with color, it resembles these lights that are seen in these UFO sightings.
Oh wow! Does it resemble the pattern of the lights too?
Well, it could. It's that I've seen reports like that. So then thinking, okay, Black Pyramid, where the hell are Black Pyramids? And I've done some research, and there is a fourth pyramid allegedly in Egypt that was black. They talk about the three, but there's one that's missing or that can't be found, and it's a Black Pyramid. And so if everything links to there, so now you have a portal. I'm having a spaceship kind of type deal, like all this stuff. You know, could all be the same?
I think they're all actually. I think they're all true. And what I've found with, I'm not just saying, it's not an easy way out. I'm saying that because everything that I have studied, it always ends up being that it's true on like 20 different levels, depending on how you're perceiving it. Mm-hmm. So something coming from an extraterrestrial is going to be perfect in every perspective, no matter what. It's absolutely just genius what they can do. I mean, it's a perfect, design, perfect diagram. It encompasses everything.
Right. So it was given to me in a 2-dimensional model, so that way those under the first dimension could explain it. But then you could look at it in 2, 3, or 4, possibly all 10 dimensions. You were able to look at it in every dimension. Yep. I had to make it this was also an experiment for me where I was learning about the other dimensions. So I was trying to see it in other dimensions. So I could display in 3-dimensional, in a 3-dimensional plane, what all the dimensions look like. And by using that map and that element, that's how I was able to create, that's what guided me to creating all those working examples. So that's where we're at, man. So I think back to the drawing board with this. I can hand over all the stuff that I've done for you. We can use this video as reference, and we'll get you back when you figure out orientation, because we need to determine, and layers. We got to figure out what are the actual layers, because then from there, this all might start make sense.
Yeah, and you know what else I was just noticing?
Okay.
It kind of looks like an eyeball as well.
What do you want me? What do you want me to bring up?
Yeah, the TESCAN logo.
So
I'm just seeing this. I'm seeing like the white of the eye plus like the red blood vessels and the end.
So the TESA is a TESA symbol. So TESA CAN just stands for TESA Canada. Okay. But TESA is the
okay.
If you want to call it a symbol, it'll be TESA symbol. The TESA symbol.
Yeah. So I'm thinking also about the Eye of Ra, which I think was a craft. I actually think was a craft. I didn't know. I wasn't thinking along those lines for a while, but if you have something watching, the eye in the sky watching you, and all this stuff.
Well, the eye of providence for Freemasonry, orientation, you see the all-seeing eye, but I see a triangle. Okay. So if we're looking at it from above, that could have been a triangle of craft with that circle in the center.
I agree.
It's not an eye, it's the portal, it's the beam, it's and Serena, I love your fucking comment. I just saw that. Did you also build a mountain out of mashed potatoes? Remind me of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yeah, thanks for the support. I'm being very comfortable with all you guys today, coming out with my weird ass experiencer story, but it's only because it's supported by evidence that wasn't available at the beginning. So I'm only piggybacking off of that to say that, it's not my crazy idea. It's our crazy idea. We got to figure it all out.
Well, you know what I think, Ryan? I think depending on your vision, that'll help me too, is depending on what exactly you're trying to build, is that it can go several different directions, I think. But
well, it keeps me up at night. Sometimes it tells me I got to do stuff, and I got to do it when I got to do it. I got to be creative. I feel guided whenever I tap into this. This is my drive. I mean, all you've really done today is really perhaps reinforced a little bit of faith that perhaps I do have a direct line with the CEO, and oddly enough, here to boot, my wife and I were looking at origins of my name tonight. Ryan. Okay, if you break that down, Ryan, on an Anu. Okay, so you can speculate on that. Weird coincidence.
How about Orion?
Or Orion, yeah, because Orion is the root word too. So Orion constellation, things like that. You also want to throw in the possibility of my middle, but which was actually my first name for at birth, but is Daniel, which is which is the prophet, which is the the God will be my judge, and then God protected him in the lion's den. So like it kind of can talk about characteristics, even the name. But me and my wife were kind of talking about, and she's got a spiritual name too, like brings her all to the roots of Egypt, Queen of the Desert and things like that too. Like we're just trying to, there's a lot of synchronicity even with the names, a lot of things at place here, a lot of guided things. So it's really got me thinking. A lot of coincidence, but I just want to put this out there. This is all speculation and it's all theory until we get confirmation. But I'm really, really unsure in this moment because it could very well be a very strange coincidence. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to identify anything specific, but everything freaking lines up too weird for me right now.
Yeah, well, they have control over the time cycle and over all this stuff, and they can make whatever they want to happen when it's supposed to happen. And the other thing is that we just entered the age of Aquarius very recently,
and you say in the next level is the dream state, the next
for right? in terms
for
of
houses.
For houses, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, once you get above, the houses, that's like the 8th level, or the signs, houses, that's the 8th sphere.
Okay.
Yeah, the 9th sphere, yes, the next step up is the dream world, and that's the portal world.
Okay, so the 8th in terms of levels here would be where these chairs are,
right?
I guess.
Yep.
Okay. So that's where I'm at right now. Is I have to build these chairs. Fill these chairs so that way we can go to, by the time we can go into the port, but to go to the next house, that's like what, 2,800 years from now?
It's 2,160 per age.
Yeah.
So yeah, about 2,160.
That was a close guess. But yeah, so I mean,
the age of Aquarius is the age of man. So this is supposed to be when man takes the knowledge back,
mm-hmm.
but it's also the age of the machine and mechanization and all robotics and all this stuff. So, but that's the thing, is that even with the ages, there's some of each in each age. So when you're talking about the age of Aquarius, the opposite of Aquarius is Leo, which is the golden age.
Mm-hmm.
So since we're in Aquarius, there's going to be a very small part of the world that's experiencing the golden age, whereas the rest of the world is experiencing the somewhat difficult time of Aquarius. So it's that same concept with the yin and yang. There's a little piece of the good and the bad. There's a little piece of bad and the good. It's that
mm-hmm.
balance. So yeah, I honestly, like, just between all the ideas we've put out, it's we've covered so much. It's phenomenal.
So in terms of a scientific exploration, and we can obviously have part 2 when we learn more. If you could conclude, how would you define why me, why now, and what are we doing with it?
Well, I'll take why now first. I would say it's because, a lot of people felt this for a long time, but
mm-hmm.
let's see some obvious, very, very obvious contact. I want to see humans standing next to one of these creators. I want to see them together I don't want to see this dimensional barrier. I'd like to see them come down and try to help us or bring understanding, or just to let people know that, hey, I'm the creator of the system. We created the system. We're doing it. It's a spiritual mechanism to help. Well, actually, I should explain that. This whole 10-dimensional system, it was created to be a spirit. It's a vehicle for spiritual advancement of spirits, essentially, of any kind of being, and it's also a karma machine. And so what it does is that when you spin through these cycles and these great ages and everything, it's giving you different backdrops to work off of based on what you need to pay for karma and based on what you need to learn or what will help you. So it's this huge, basically it's a massive ascension machine. And I believe that they tried to create something that was going to be the most efficient and effective way to get humans back home, which is really with them, back up to the 10th sphere. And then from there, I didn't mention this, but once you get past the 10th, into the 10th sphere, now you can go to the rest of the solar system freely, and you can go to the rest of the universe freely. So, in terms of being able to travel interdimensionally and through portals and stargates and stuff like this, like humans are in their infancy. We need to get some ability back. So I honestly think, Ryan, if I made
that's in the physical sense, but what if it was mental? What if it's consciousness? What if we do all that through those layers through our mind?
Oh, we can. Well, we definitely can. But at the end of the day, if there's a way to be able to travel through wormholes and not leave a physical body behind, I'm saying translate your entire body, including your physical body, take everything with you in a higher gradient, energy gradient.
Mm-hmm.
And if that happened, if you were meditating and that happened and someone walked in the room, you'd be gone. You wouldn't be sleeping. There wouldn't be a body there. You would literally disappear. And it's dangerous when you astral travel because your physical body is left, kind of exposed. Like you have to come back to your body. If that's another topic altogether, silver cord and stuff like this, and severing that cord and death or whatever. But I think the idea is that we want to get to a point where it's more than astral travel. It's actually you're taking the whole thing, the whole vehicle. Get your Merkaba structured properly. Get yourself through a portal, and then you can go freely wherever you want to. So I think contact is close, Ryan. And I think in order for that to happen properly, there needs to be.
Other people have interpreted this as being like a key. So like with the orientation part, you said, you turn it, once you figure it out, you turn it, you go somewhere. So it's part of that ascension. I've seen like a lot, I don't know. I don't know, man. I've also been told that that could be a symbol that we could sit in and we could meditate and reach and achieve consciousness and all that other stuff too. A power symbol. Like there's so many ways to experiment with this symbol. Draw it on the ground and do your thing inside that, like as a ward or as a protection circle or a portal. It's a device of some sort. It is a vessel, I think.
Yep. No, I agree with you. I think I'd like to spend more time looking at the chair symbols and thinking about that, because I was, initially I was trying to include the colored chairs in with the other black and white chairs, but I actually think it's like we talked about. I think these colors are sitting on top of something else. That's why I couldn't find Aries for me. I'm looking at this green triangle. I'm like, that is not, first of all, Aries is not an earth sign. It's a fire sign. Mm-hmm. So if something was sitting there, and maybe that's what we could do is actually, if you put the red chair where the green chair is, it's probably a good way to start that.
Yeah, and I can do that with the 3D model. Mm-hmm. I can do that with that. That's why I removed the symbols and stuff to kind of see what all makes sense. Because to determine layers, like I got orientation, so for me, I'm thinking too and far. So there's understanding it, but then there's, if it is a machine, because that's my linear thinking or my nuts and bolts thinking, the spiritual thinking also makes sense. So that's why it's all connected. But then if this was to be a machine, then we got this part at the bottom here. So these three symbols might not even be attached to that pyramid. That might just be indication of this level here, which means that part spins that way. And then with the zodiac means this part here spins that way. And then with this saying TESA or that could mean it spins that way. So
I like East a lot. I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was big for me, Ryan.
Yeah, so it's all there, and I mean there's a bit of my subconscious in there with like symbolism and stuff that I know, the stuff that I've learned, stuff that I studied. Someone could easily say that this is just my brain trying to make sense of all the all the teachings and stuff I learned while being in the 32nd degrees of Freemasons that I've gone through Freemasonry. I've learned a lot of esoteric information. But that doesn't explain the three-dimensional model, the synchronicities, and then your explanation of stuff that from a perspective I didn't know. So that kind of rules that out for me. And it just makes me a little more concerned. Good night, Cece. Good night, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. I see everybody's leaving. We're all fading off. We got work in the morning.
I just want to say this, that there's something seriously important going on with this diagram, because there's nothing in there that I said, oh, this just doesn't fit. And I've been studying this for a long time, Ryan, and I've been doing this a long time.
And you recognized it, and then right. So I would encourage you to continue working on it, and then get back to me, and I'll send you more data, or we'll do some back to back. Maybe we should write a book or something. Let's write it. Let's get something out to explain. We could transcribe this video. And that could be the start of something great. And then just study the damn thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in for sure. We'll continue to develop the ideas, and once I can see some of that stuff, up close, obviously, like really large screen, that'll help me to orient. But how it's, the way it's oriented right now, I actually have no problem with. So I think that's a really good place to start even.
Okay. Then we need to establish the layers. Got to determine the layers.
Yeah, I don't know if you could see what's underneath those colored chairs in some kind of vision or something.
No, but so that's the other part of me experimenting with me cutting it out in layers, because I was trying to see visually what layers must exist. And I was debating on whether or not, that was a layer. So I would have had to, but I would have to imagine what underneath here looked like. You know what I mean? Because if that's just on its own and it's suspending there, but like there were with the yin yang, because it's somewhat familiar, we could create a layer and continue that design, and with those dots that are missing, with the Templar's cross, we can continue drawing that and have that in layer, which is what I did as a recognizable symbol. But I guess with the Eastern Star symbol, I guess if I'll bring that back up again.
Yeah, you know what else too, Ryan? The four sides of the Templar cross, those are called the gates of heaven. Okay. So that some people believe that's how all the spirits get into the earth plane and everything. But they're all wormholes too. They're all portals. Yeah. At least the top designs.
Mm-hmm. So maybe we can work with this being my best guess because of the colors and the orientation.
Yep.
That's what that layer looks like underneath.
I would keep that. I would definitely keep that for sure. I wouldn't change that one. And because the fire and the water at the top, like I was saying, it represents the two dualistic principles. And if you had the blue not next to the red, that I wouldn't like that very much, because they're the opposites. You want them to be on the opposite side, just to the opposite of center.
Now, if the red was Aries, though, that doesn't make blue. Does that make blue Gemini? If those were 1, 2, and 3?
Well, no, because Gemini is a air sign. Mm-hmm. So No, I already thought
Yeah, you
about that.
already
But
thought like that too. So the zodiac part is in it. It's an element. And that's why we got to figure out what layer. Because if you look at the Seal of Solomon, there's 12 sections here. So that could be the zodiac. That could be the universe.
Oh, yeah.
That could, or space, right?
Yeah, that is the Seal of Solomon is also the zodiac.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's literally a symbol within symbol within symbol.
And it's used to protect protect us from the veil, from the demons, from the ghosts. Like demonology comes from Solomon.
Oh,
Like,
with it, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but that's a ward from him to ward off the evil spirits in the other side. So if that being a portal, and then there's that Seal of Solomon, that might be what's protecting us from the other side. So if that veil is gone, then they come through. Maybe that's what we got to do is break that veil and.
Yep. Well,
so many.
The Seal of Solomon doesn't have cuneiform on it, correct?
No. So let me.
Okay. Well, what I find interesting,
we got 8 minutes to the 3-hour mark, so we might as well just we'll take it to there, and then we'll call it.
What I find interesting is that the proximity of the Jewish culture to the Sumerian culture, they're very close to each other geographically. I find it interesting that they're next to each other. And by the way, I saw this week. The area of the Middle East called Sumeria.
Yeah.
Obviously that's from Sumeria because that came in. I believe it started in the Fertile Crescent, so I think it came into the Middle East.
Oh, for sure. So there's multiple seals. I think I don't know how many seals Solomon has, but that's the original Seal of Solomon there. One from the seal. Let me. Then there's the secret seal of Solomon. So there's a few different types of seals. So there's this hexagram. But this is the one symbol that I identified as being that symbol there.
Oh, that's what that is too. It's like the door. It's like the it's seal. Well, that is what it is. It's sealing off the 10th sphere from the 9th sphere. So you're not gonna get through that. It's like the last door. That's literally what it is. It's the glass ceiling or the last door before you get up to that. The sphere of the creators.
And you're sealing the Merkaba. It's like, I mean, that could be a layer on its own too.
Oh yeah.
There's like, I mean, we got to pick. So if we can decide, because these are all clues, okay? Like it's a riddle, and they know I'm an investigator. They know, we like puzzles and all that other stuff. Everything has its meaning. So we've just unlocked a few other things that make sense, but like there would have to be a codex, which we don't have. But if that cuneiform is it, as we've linked and established, that is ground zero. That is the point of contact. That's as far back as we know and as far back as we can trace. So that must be where we start. So if you do some research specifically into Sumerian, and I'm only thinking mathematics, we're talking about 12, the base 60. So divide that in half. Let's work with sixes. Maybe we need to split this in half. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, well, of course, 12, for me, it's usually either base 12 or base 10 for me.
But it originally was base 60.
Well, the 60, it's really interesting. That represents actually 2 zodiac signs. And you can, of course, divide the zodiac into 6 equal parts of 60 degrees. Mm-hmm. And I know it was the Mayans. No, the Mayans I think was 13 and 20, if I'm not mistaken.
Speaking of them, here's another thing too. Speaking of the Mayans, remember the Mayan end of the world calendar?
Yep.
Take a look at this. Let me find it here. Somebody showed me this the other day too. You got some similarities there.
Oh yeah, okay. Their disc calendar, yep.
Yeah. Some, we got some symbolism and very, like it's somehow connected to whatever all these things and all the civilizations are connected to. Whatever this freaking meant when they made that, that's what this means. This is just like the current version to explain to us, the same thing they tried to explain back then, just in a way that we might be able to understand now.
It's the cycle of time. That's one thing that it is. It's the structure of the solar system, and it's also the structure of the mind.
When did we go into the age of Aquarius? Like what month, what day, what year?
Well, it's an interesting topic. I think, okay, well, according to a lot of people think it was, the winter solstice of 2012.
Okay.
December 21st, 2012. I keep a bracket anywhere from 2008. Actually, my bracket goes all the way to 2020. Somewhere in there was the official beginning. And, I believe they said it was the end, but they were kind of cryptic about it. But, I think it's...
December 29th, if that, or December 25th, 2019 is the date I got this message.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that's kind of, if it did end then, that's another coincidence.
Well, you know what, Ryan? Let me pull up that transit.
Yeah.
I'll pull up that chart. You know what time you got it?
Like the photo, the earliest image, when I realized this was important, I went back to save it. The date that was only marked was the one I posted it to my Instagram. So that date's December 29th, 2019. So the assumption is that, within a 2 to 3 day window prior to that is when I got it, because I obsessed about it, and then I created it. I had to get it out of my mind. So I had to put it on the computer.
Okay. Do you remember what time you had your contact or your vision? Was it like in the night, the morning?
I'm thinking night, maybe early in the morning. Like it could, like I was waking up at some point.
Okay. Well, I can pull up some of these charts, Ryan, as we continue to talk, and I'll have a look at what was going on in the sky and see if I see something.
Yeah.
But in any case, I think it's just trying to bring the world together. That's actually my summary.
Well, and that's the model that I felt, and that's what I've been using to create the business structure with TESA 2, and that's working, because I was pulled onto that show because somebody heard about me. I went onto that show. You participated in the comments, yeah, and then now here you are. Like, I mean, like that unity, that's evident. That this symbol is bringing people together. I agree with you 100%. So we just let's keep this conversation going. Let's keep this symbol working. Let's try to maybe put some science behind it. Make it maybe. I mean, we can write about it. We got a blogging site as well. You can write an article on it, and we can keep this thing going.
Okay, sounds good with me, Ryan. And maybe it's something where someone has because obviously it's a bunch of new information for most people, probably. So hey, maybe someone has a vision tonight, and they send you a message tomorrow, and they say, "Hey, this is what I just got from Spirit," or something.
Well, that's why I like talking about these on video, because for me, if we ever get that aha moment, I'm flagging these to go back and put these pieces together, because it's video testimony. It's not you can write about it, you can you can draw about it, you can do all those other things, but this video tells a lot with the body movement, the mechanics, the back and forth, and it's in the database. It's out there in the open. So that's it. To me, this is the documentation. So we'll just share this video with anyone you think might know, and then hey, sit down, listen to this, and tell me what you think this is, and we can start a roundtable. Maybe there's 12 of us got to sit together and be like, boom.
That's right.
Well,
I mean, if you want,
what's your zodiac sign? What are you?
I'm a Pisces, but barely. I'm actually on the cusp between Pisces and Aquarius. So I actually end up pulling about 50-50 energy, about 50% Aquarius energy, 50% Pisces energy. But what I was going to actually say is that if we assumed that I was going to be pulling in the cosmological part of this table, of the 12 the seats, if we can find your seat and we can find my seat, then maybe we can have a little bit better of an understanding. If you're sure of that, because if who am I in that table? It probably has to be cosmology, right? Because that's the whole thing I just went over.
But does that make sense for Pisces? That's if it's zodiac works, right? So cosmology could work if we can somehow line those layers up for cosmology and Pisces to be in the same, and then that might establish layers. So once we're able to find some synchronicity, then we'll be able to define the layer.
Oh yeah.
And then all that motion and that 3D modeling will make more sense to me.
Yep.
If I know what layers I'm working with.
Yeah, and I was going to say, if you have a few other people that you feel like you might know who they are, where they fit, the more people that we could try to place, might.
I mean, it's whether or not my interpretation of these symbols are accurate too, right? So I went down to the root word of the color, the origin. So I identify the color as red. What does the word red mean? And I just put characteristics that apply to the word red. The symbol means fire. So what does the word fire mean? So that's all I did is took the root word of the current identifiable symbol and broke it down into characteristics. So if we find someone that fits in those characteristics, then that makes sense. But that's funny though, because the zodiac element, we want to have all those characteristics and and notice those markers. And then when you ask, hey, what zodiac, like kind of make a guess. And then if they say a zodiac symbol that resonates with that seat, like if we keep that part secret, you know what I mean? Once we figure it out between you and I, if that works, that's even if I have a seat at the table. Who even knows? Maybe maybe I don't belong in this. That's possible too. My job might have been just this. I'm just the portal for that, and that's it. I don't want to think that I'm entitled to sit at this table. Yep. I mean, we got to think about that. But if a Gemini can fit, you want to fit characteristics with Gemini, because you mentioned that earlier too, about the houses. So we'll have to go back and figure out what you said with what the words actually mean, and then turn this wheel so its colors and symbols are oriented properly.
Yep. Well, if you any kind of thought you have, Ryan, just obviously send me a message, or we'll continue to piece through it.
Well, for now, I'm gonna go to bed and see what kind of dream I have. You sleep on that, and then I'll leave that up to you. You do some thinking, and then you reach out to me with what I have, and then I'll send you pieces by piece as you need it, so that way you're not overwhelmed, and we're kind of controlling the data that way too.
So you're gonna send, So you're gonna send me all the stuff that you showed tonight for starters, right?
I'll send you some. Yeah, I'll send you what you need. Some stuff like it's just me progress pics and stuff like that too.
Okay.
So sleep on it, make a list of what you want and what you need, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds good to me, Ryan. Yep.
Cool, man. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I know there's got nobody in the chat right now, so you're all gone to bed. But if you're watching this on the replay and you made it through, thank you so much. I am not going to hang around after this video. I'm going to peace out. So our extra time was that hour, so we're done. Thank you so much, Dave, for joining me, and thank you so much for I don't know, just being the way that you are, man. Like we are path meant to cross today, and I'm glad we connected. So we'll forever have this moment. I'll tell you that, because
that's right.
No one else has ever taken a crack at it, and it makes a lot of freaking sense. So as far as I'm concerned, you're my astrology expert right now. So we'll talk about that too. Maybe we'll get you helping out others on that element as well. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good night. Keep your eyes in the sky and heal the world. Peace.
want to know the truth? I'll tell you everything.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, where together, my friends, we own the night. On our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a place called the SOR Sightlines Report. All of our investigations and people who inquire are turned over to TESA, the Experiencer Support Association. Ryan Stacey and his crew, what I like about them, they're independent. They're not working for anybody, and they want answers. We want answers for our listeners and people who inquire as well about their experiences. It's a great tandem, and we love being teamed up with TESA. If you haven't heard of us before, that's okay. We'd love to earn your listening ears. Join us 9:06 Pacific Time, 12:06 a.m. Eastern for 3 hours of live entertainment, 7 days a week.
Please stand by for further details. We return you now to your regularly scheduled program.
Hello, new YouTube member. Guess what? You've just unlocked bonus content that no one else has seen before, and you get exclusive access to some neat features. If you join the Experiencers Anonymous tier, you've unlocked loyalty badges which will appear next to your name when you join us live during any of our videos. The longer you stay with us, the cooler the badge will be. Also, you get to use these cool custom emojis that we made just for you. You also get to access our private Discord chat where we can communicate all the time privately. All you have to do is email us at admin@tesacan.org. Let us know you want in on the discussion and we will send you the link directly to Discord. This tier also unlocks early access to new videos, behind the scenes and blooper footage, as well as some exclusive videos made just for members. All that for $2.99 Canadian a month. If you join the unclassified tier for $4.99 Canadian, you would get everything I just said, plus extended footage of some of our featured videos, a discount to our merch store, and so much more. If you are a member of the unclassified tier, email us at admin@tesacan.org and let us know, and we will send you a discount code for the Paranormal Hangar. All proceeds go back into the mission and help us create educational content for you and the rest of the world. Thank you for being a part of that journey. There are lots of perks, so make sure you check that out. Also, you can use this tab to share and communicate with TESA. That's it. Unless you have a better idea. If you do, email us at admin@tesacan.org if you have any requests for videos or bonus perks or anything at all. Really, you are in charge. Don't be afraid to reach out. Thanks for your support, and if you know anyone else who may benefit, please share our channel. The more people we have, the more we can help. And thanks for watching. Keep your eyes in the sky. Say it with me. Say it, Tim.
Heed the world.
Heed the world.